We're live.
Thank you. Welcome to our third budget meeting. Bienvenue à notre troisième réunion budgétaire. Is there a volunteer to move and second the agenda? Conseiller Chris, Conseiller Yvon.
Is moved by Councillor Fisher and seconded by Councillor Duhaime. Be it resolved that the agenda for the budget meeting of Council held on March the 10th, 2021 be adopted as presented.
Any objections? Aucune objection? None? Carried? Adopté. Are there any pecuniary interest? Aucune déclaration d'intérêt pécuniaire? None? Okay, just a quick overview. This is our third meeting, and as a summary of our first and second meeting, un sommaire de notre première et deuxième réunion, our starting point is 6.8%. An average 1% represents 177,000. 2020, we have a surplus in excess of 1.5 million. Anyone that wishes to peruse the documentation, the workbooks, les livrets for budget and capital, they are accessible on our website. And then we also had good news earlier in the last 2 weeks regarding additional funding for COVID operation, nearly $250,000. And then so far, we've reviewed the operation budgets for corporate services, bylaw, COVID, mayor and council, committee for heritage and emergency, and we also reviewed service partners for DSAB, health unit, Au Chateau, animal control. And then we proceeded with public works for operation and drains, and council was informed that the budget has been earmarked to maintain the same level of service. And then we are ready, I believe, to proceed with capital projects, les projets capitaux pour public works. And if there's any information from our CEO, Jay, did you have any update? No? Okay. So I'll pass it on to the chair, le président de Travaux Publics, Conseiller Yvon.
Merci, Madame Mairesse. You have before you the projects that Sean had put together for this year. We do have to understand that the brushing and ditching that was done the previous year, the work to complete, whether it be gravel or paving, will be on this year's budget. So that is part of this, what Sean is going to present to you today. I commend Sean in putting something together that will hopefully be adhered to or agreed upon. But like we say, this is budget, so the crunching time begins. So I will now turn it over to Sean to maybe go through the projects for this 2021 year.
Councillor Yvon.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Lise and Chris and Dan.
I don't know if I wasn't looking, so I think Councillor Dan was first because the way it's
I
not her
wasn't looking at
logo.
it. I was reading something. Sorry, Dan. Okay, go ahead, Dan.
Thank you, Councillor Lise, and thank you, Yvon. I just want to be on the same playing field with everybody and for people that are listening to the conversation that we're going to have this afternoon regarding capital, and from the higher policy level, without digging into the weeds. How can I ask a question to Sean on how he gets to this plan? I know that he has some discussion with you, Yvon, but what's it based on? What kind of analysis is it based on, Sean? Is it based on the number of complaints you get? Is it based on your men? Can you just go over that for me, please? Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, very valid question, Councillor Dan. So there's obviously a bunch of factors, but the main, I'll try and name the main factors are obviously public safety. So motorists, our pedestrians, looking after, make sure that our infrastructure is safe. Obviously service requests. So in turn, the amount of maintenance that our staff are required to do on these sidewalks and roads. Obviously, budget. and as well as distribution and collection. So how the integrity of our water mains, sewer mains, drainage on these roads. So with all those kind of variables, you make your educated decision on how to prioritize. Hope that answers.
Any other questions, supplement to that, Dan? No? Thank you. Okay,
Perfect.
I'll go to Lise and then Chris.
I don't know,
Councillor
Chris, were you before me? Because I wasn't looking either. It's okay? Okay, thank you very much. That was one of the thing I wanted to ask, and I'm glad there's more than one factor, because if we would put down on the budget request everything that people is asking during a long time, I think the paper will be thicker than what we have today. So thank you very much, Sean. I really appreciate that. But my question is to Alicia, just a little bit of clarification, Alicia, that for example, I know that there's some grant, the gas grant is only for infrastructure like road and building, blah, blah, blah. But what about for public work? I know it's identified on top that federal tax fund, but I don't think we can use that for a capital project like for building or anything that's on the road. Yes, because it is infrastructure, but the rest cannot be used. But is there anything else of the OCIF? Is there anything else in the list that you send us that can be directed to public work? Where are you, Alicia? I don't see you.
On my screen up at the top here.
Okay, you're on the top. Okay, left in my screen. Okay.
So gas tax, a few years ago, they actually opened the acceptable list of projects for gas tax substantially a few years ago. So it is a much broader list of projects. Historically, gas tax has been dedicated entirely to public works. So they use all the gas tax dollars. And historically, the OCIF, we have been splitting between public works and water and sewer, sort of depending on the needs and depending on the projects. And then I take a look at the end, Councillor Senecal, when we've got a list of approved projects, and I do exactly that. I say, okay, this fits best into gas tax, so these are going to stay with gas tax. This is kind of a little bit borderline, so it's going to stay in the municipally funded taxation. But there is a lot more that's allowed through the gas tax projects than used to be.
Okay, so can I ask another question to your
Yes. Yeah,
Okay, good. Thank you, Alicia. So for example, I just want to clear my mind. Under public work for the fleet for 221, would the gas tax qualify for that?
Sorry, under the which for 221?
The public what fleet 2021, like where it would it qualify under the gas tax? For example, the pickup. Is a truck anywhere would qualify for that?
No.
Okay. No. Okay. No, that's thank you very much, Alicia.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Lise. Councillor Fisher.
I'm not sure who my question is for, but I seem to remember a while ago, I think it was actually Councillor Rowley was talking to me about a study really about the expenditure levels for roads. So I guess my question is, how do we know that we're spending enough money, that we're not operating in a deficit, and that even though we're spending money and fixing roads every year, that we're spending enough so overall we're not getting into a position where our roads are in fact deteriorating faster than we fix them? If you understand what I'm saying.
I'll let Elisa take that one, and then I'll add on if okay. Go ahead.
So we are in the process of updating our asset management plan, and so we have an old asset management plan, and then the province has brought in new requirements and new update procedures, and it's actually a really good process the province has put in place. We are in the process of doing that. And some of that will, again, address what that new number is, whether we're operating in a deficit, and I can tell you we are, and what the magic number is, understanding that an asset management plan is a dynamic plan. So it's going to have a plan with when roads should be done, long-term plan and things like that. But every year the plan needs to be reviewed and kind of recommitted to again. So council still has that opportunity to see how things change, roads that deteriorate quicker, things like that. So you will see that in front of you this year. You know, based on kind of our old stuff and the numbers we're looking at, you know, our magic number is actually closer to 5 million than to the 3 million-ish that we currently have. So we are underfunding our roads based on a theoretical number right now. But yeah, certainly you'll see some harder figures in front of you this year, Councillor Fisher.
Thank you.
Did you want to add to that, Jay?
Well, yeah, and so, you know, you're going to get a bunch of engineers, accountants, and folks, no offense, and provide you with a theoretical or an analysis of keeping your infrastructure up to date, for sure. And certainly we are in a deficit. The issue is the tolerance for the deficit. You know, and we've been managing with an infrastructure deficit, I'd suggest, ever since amalgamation. And we manage it, and we just, it's whether we're able to manage it and tolerate it at what level, right? So there's a lot of roads that, if you looked at their expected life, they're way past their expected life and should have been replaced probably 10 years ago. So, if and when you want to get there, then absolutely, we can maintain those roads, but it will require significant investment of annual expenditures from this municipality. So it's bridging the gap is basically the challenge that councils have throughout the province and throughout everywhere. And then the challenge that we have in Northern Ontario, because we, despite having better construction than other places in Northern Ontario, we're not blessed with the Vaughan or whatever, where their infrastructure is all new and they have a ton of assessment to address it. So, getting to addressing the gap is going to be is really the key issue for budgets throughout Northern Ontario. But certainly we should be trying to reduce our dependency on grants that could wash away with political whims, and try and become more self-sustaining over time. Just thought I would add that for consideration.
Thank you, Jay. Rolly has his hand up. Rolly?
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, just a comment, like Jay was saying, and one thing we got to keep in mind is whenever Sean brings forward a proposal for this year's budget, it's imperative that we keep track on it, because if we cut back our roads, what ends up happening, it costs more, because we end up going there with supplement granular, and it just add things up, and then the year after or the year after that we end up doing the road again. So we end up doing it time and a half. So it's better that we keep track and also add to it, add more budget to it, and then we'll keep ahead of our roads. Thank you.
Okay, Chris, did you have a?
Yeah, I just wanted a quick follow-up question. I just want to understand. So this would be called an infrastructure deficit. Is that the correct terminology? And then I guess my next question is, if we're running, say, theoretically, we're running a couple $2 million short each year. So am I correct in assuming that essentially what we're doing is we're putting that sort of on the backs of our children and grandchildren eventually? Is that fair to say? Understanding that, yeah, a road's a road, and you can use it past its life, and et cetera, but just philosophy, I can't even say that word. Just someone can answer that for me, please.
From a finance perspective, you're deferring expenditures that need to be made and making your infrastructure that much less acceptable. But it then comes down back to your tolerance for it. And so, you can have a road that, needs to be replaced, but that they're grading it okay and so on and so forth. And, you're managing with less. There's obviously that becomes more problematic with bridges. You have to fix those. But the others, it really is up to a council philosophical discussion as to, that old mid 2005, I think it was Councillor Marlowe back in the day. Do you want a Cadillac? Do you want a Chev? Right? And what do you want to pay for? So yeah, how quickly do you want perfect roads? Then you're going to have, if you want them, then you'll have to bump it up quite a bit.
Thank you. Lee Senecal.
Okay, well, on the same thing, I just want to make some comment because since I'm old enough to have been around since the whole town of Sturgeon Falls was still operating by itself before that wonderful amalgamation that everybody said they didn't want include Sturgeon Falls. Jay, you must remember when you came in how much money we're getting for the road just in Sturgeon Falls, over 2 million that were in grant, and it was cut completely. And since day one, yes, it would be nice, but if we look at the budget right now, that's deferred for 2021, $1,352,000 on public work. Can you imagine that would be at least really fast in my head, 7 or 8% tax just for that portion. And that's not including the other portion. So like Jay said, we can, and I think we did a lot of work, and especially in the non-organized area, like Crystal Falls, like River Valley, like all the non-organized before, that the money that the road, because talk to people, they never had road like that before. So we have to be, yes, we can have a Cadillac, but we're gonna have to pay for it. So just that comment that it's not like what it used to be and the money that we were getting before. And we can do whatever we want. Obviously, we can raise the tax 30% if you want to, but that's a decision that council as a whole have to make.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lees. I have a comment to make as well. And I'm just going to brush off from what has been said. And that's the amalgamation part of it. And when the amalgamation happened, we were given a challenge. And the province, of course, they had given us enough grants to provide, but then again, they laxed off and we're not getting as much money. Now we live in an area of clay. And as you know, the road does not last very long in a clayish area. And and Sean could say this as well. His men and his people are now saying that the roads, the foremans are seeing light at the end of the tunnel because we are fixing the roads that we have to fix, and the roads are things are getting much better. The fleet is better, the roads are better, and we're doing well with what we have. And I congratulate Sean and his crews for doing that. But we can certainly borrow a lot of money and do a lot of things. But then at the end of the day, like Lisa mentioned, the roads are far better now than they ever were when they were non-amalgamated. So it's a plus for them because the roads are being taken care of in the river, Crystal, Ving, and we're doing everything we can with what we have. But nevertheless, I think the government has to step up. Thank you very much. Okay, now we proceed to Sean. Sean, if you want.
Yeah, Councillor.
Okay, I'm sorry, Lise.
Mayor.
Mary Duane, I'm sorry.
Okay, I just wanted to highlight good discussion. I do know that initially part also the combination for the selection of what roads are going to be tackled. At one point, probably what Councillor Rowley was making reference to is the Capital Road Management Plan, where we had an engineer that had been hired and assessed all the roads and determined the priority of when those roads would be tackled. But then throughout the years, it was expanded to incorporate also the feedback from Public Works because they're out there in the field and based on the complaints received. And the same thing, I believe, with the assessment of sidewalks, there was something that we had approved in the last couple of years to get them reevaluated to determine more patching would be required and what work would be required. And with the bridge inspection, well, my understanding is that we continue doing that every 2 years. So we can identify which bridge requires priority and what kind of investment on the bridge. But overall, when you look at the future road capital projects, we're starting to see the cycle start over again. And that was throughout many years, but then at least we're seeing that cycle come up, and based on the people in the field doing the work, they also identify what are priorities that need to be addressed.
Merci, Madame Medes. So any other questions? Then, okay, so we'll go through the process here of the projects and infrastructure for 2021. I'll now give it up to you, Sean.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So we'll start off on page 4. So at the top there, you're going to see certain projects that are still in progress, and that's partly because staff and timing was an issue. So those are ongoing projects that we're going to get completed, this year. Some of them are actually already in progress. So if there's no questions, I'm going to move on to the asphalt section.
Can I ask just, please, just a clarification? First of all, I would like to see how we gotta proceed. Like, are we going, like, for example, you're going to the project that was in progress? Can we ask question on that and then see a roundtable if we are in agreement for that? So we won't have to come back. Is that the way we should be proceeding, Jay?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the projects that are put on a list from last year carried over should be.
Yeah, I know with
pretty
this one,
much,
but I'm talking after that, Jay. You're right
yeah.
on this one, but can
Right.
if we have question on that, I just have a clarification.
I think what I found interesting was the initial question. I think it was Councillor Ravita, and is the policy framework for why projects are selected, and that if because from an administrator's perspective, and knowing what goes on in other municipalities, typically the expenditure levels are done, and then there's some tweaking of what the capital works are. Obviously, there's a political nature to it, but in general, if you're happy with the policy for selection, then basically, there shouldn't be a lot of politicizing of this, but that's just my opinion.
Well, can I?
Okay, Councillor Lees.
Well, Jay, I mean, if it would be the way, then we would not need to meet because it's on paper, and we have to do it that way, that would be very simple. But I understand the one in progress, and I understand that we have the right to ask question and clarification. And at the end, it would be voted by council, and policy or no policy, council have to vote what we agree, right?
Yeah, you have to vote. Yeah, absolutely. And so definitely the final decision is yours. I'm just suggesting that in the absence of other information, that sometimes your technical advice should be, because it is very much a technical issue, should be for the majority acceptable.
Well, and I think that's what we do in the past, but we did, if you want to cut down, we have to cut down somewhere, and the only way we're going to do it is by discussion, no?
That's an assumption about cutting down, yeah.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah,
so I
okay.
want to cut down, so no discussion, budget is over. Clarification on part 1, I have, please. Very simple question.
Okay, go ahead.
So retro reflectivity survey, what is that, Sean?
That is, so under the minimum maintenance standard, it's something that's been in place for a few years now, and that has never been completed to my knowledge in West Nipissing. So all signage, regulatory signage, warning signage, not all signage, sorry, let me clarify that, but some regulatory signage, all regulatory, some warning signage. So stop signs, they need a certain amount of reflectivity. And there is actually a tool that we can use during the daytime, or you can go around at night, and but it's quite extensive. We do have a lot of signs in West Nipissing, so it's a survey that needs to happen. And so we have hired a third-party contractor with the equipment, and they're in the as soon as the snow melts and they can access the signs, then we're going to get this completed. That was approved last year. To my knowledge.
No, and I have no problem. I just did not know what it was, Sean.
Okay, good, fair.
Thank you, Councillor Lees. Madame Meres, do you want?
Just for an update pertaining to Principal East Sidewalk and Verner, did we get the ministry approval?
We did.
Thank you.
Yes.
And I don't remember exactly what was the amount that was identified last year, but I think, is it fair to say that the amount this year is lower than what was budgeted last year?
The amount that you see there, Madam Mayor, is the amount of the quoted price to complete the work.
Okay, so, but I guess the question was the amount forecasted higher last year? Maybe
I
it
would not,
was.
yeah, I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to look at that.
Okay, no worries.
Thank you, Madame Meres. Councillor Chris?
So I just have a comment, just why I think about it, because I don't want to let it go. So whoever was doing the brushing in the fall up here, and there were bits done around here and then on the way to dump, that guy or girl really loves their job. And I just want to make sure that, like, multiple people have told me, like, what a great job that was done. So if we could keep that guy doing the brushing, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So Sean, you continue?
Okay, so we'll move on to asphalt. So the first road on the list is Arthur Street. I just want to clarify or bring something forward, is that Arthur Street, we're only looking at resurfacing. We're not, technically in a perfect world, we should probably be replacing the water mains and the sewer mains due to their age and water main sizing. But we are not, in my opinion, a municipality that can afford a complete reconstruct of all streets. That being said, most of the laterals have been repaired and replaced, hence why the road is in that shape. Public Works did some drainage enhancement last year, so removed all the shouldering, opened up all the, around the catch basins, and so that portion is done. But keep in mind that you're going to be paving over top of an old water main and an old sewer main. But for the most part, they're not problematic areas. Our staff aren't running out there and fixing leaks on a weekly basis. As a matter of fact, I don't remember in my tenure that we've been on that road to do a repair. So the infrastructure seems to be holding up, and that's why I would say we gamble and at least pave it. And but it is always a risk when you pave over old infrastructure. Bélanger Street. No questions? Okay, Bélanger Street, obviously that's part and parcel with the project that we designed for last year. Cartier is an area that the area foreman and I have looked at, and it's well overdue. And for the cost to do it, I think it is very valid. We also have potential development in the area where I have been communicating with the developer, with his engineer. So there's kind of a partnership there that we can both benefit from. Olivier, Betty, and Evansville Road. Those are all when we during IPM council had approved to surface treat those roads. So we now have a single surface treatment as part of a double surface treatment, which is what was recommended for those roads. We are now in the second treatment is always due either the year following or 2 years following. After the third year, your road will significantly start to deteriorate. So if we want to see the full life cycle of those roads, I strongly recommend we finish off the treatment of those 3 roads. Front Street, curb lanes, curbs, catch basins, that's probably going to be an ongoing expenditure. We did apply for Connecting Link funding, I believe, last year, and were denied with an explanation saying that they had given us money back in the day. But regardless, and I'm sure if you've traveled Front Street in the Sturgeon Falls area in front of Mr. Gas is one that comes to mind. And I believe there's another one in front of OK Tire that are really bad, and there are many others, but they seem to come in around the $20,000 mark. So I think we can do at least 2, if not 3 or 4, and get those addressed. We've also changed the way that we're completing these. We're moving to a more curb inlet style catch basin as opposed to a great catch basin that cars drive over. So we're moving the structures under the curb so that vehicles aren't driving over top of them. Next slide, please, Alyssa.
Okay, we have a question there, Sean?
Sure.
Yeah, before we turn the page, Bélanger Street, is that including the paved sidewalk? Because I'm we having a sidewalk for Bélanger also.
Yep. So this is for the asphalt resurfacing only.
Okay.
So the sidewalk is separate.
Okay.
And
Okay.
you're also going to see a portion in the brushing and ditching, which will address all the drainage on Bélanger Street.
Okay, thank you.
So Sean
Can I
is
ask a
fine.
quick question?
Okay, go ahead, Chris.
So just going back to Arthur, you mentioned, just so we know, so how old is that water infrastructure, and how much would it cost if we did live in a perfect world and we were going to change the pipes as well as do the road? What would that cost be? Thank you. Approximately.
Good question.
$1 million.
100. Well, yeah, I would definitely say $750,000.
Yeah.
Just judging on past projects.
Yep. Is that okay, Chris?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dan?
How much are we going to spend on the underneath on Bélanger Street?
Bélanger, so Bélanger Street, Councilor Rivita, the sanitary portion, yeah, I think the entire project is 500 and estimated at 500 and some. So a little over $500,000. So you can kind of subtract the sidewalk at 180, the asphalt resurfacing, the drainage works. But we do have enough in the budget between water and sewer and public works to cover this project.
Thank you. Supplemental to that.
Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
So you have sat down with Peter and figured out what the amount is going to cost. And I totally believe it. If you're going to do that road, you might as well do it right, because underneath we know the piping's got problems. Like I know Peter had stated that. So you're working in conjunction with Peter, and it's at a 500,000 ticket. Okay,
Correct.
good. That's perfect.
Chris, did you have another question?
Yeah, so
Councillor Chris?
now I'm interested in pipes. So at Bélanger, as opposed to Arthur, is like, how much older are those pipes? And I guess we must get call outs to that street. So I guess my question is, why would we say, okay, we'll just pave over Arthur, but Bélanger, we won't just pave over that, we'll change the pipes? What's the difference there? Thank you.
So on Bélanger, we have a known sanitary issue. There is a bottleneck that we know of. You know, it's historically been a problem. On Arthur Street, we have no history. Be mindful that a closed circuit CCTV inspection will be completed prior to resurfacing. So we're not just going to pave it blind. We're going to do our homework as best we can before we repave. So if there are any, dips or little cracks in the sanitary main, we will definitely repair them prior to resurfacing. That CCTV is scheduled.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, Sean, just maybe elaborate on the Front Street curb lane. I'm sorry, on the curb, the catch basins. Yes, we do have a problem on that Front Street, and and you can actually see it today and in the past few weeks. So I'm very I'm happy you're going to put a curb type basin, catch basin, because then you won't hear the trucks going over the ones that are on the flat on the highway itself, because they're always, they're always slower than the highway, and you hear bang, 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 and I'm glad you're going to tackle it that way. And then that way there, it'll be easier to maintain and it'll last much longer. So I thank you for that. That's a good idea. But I wish you can do them all. But anyway, all right, we'll proceed. Thank you, Sean.
Okay, moving on to,
Did we have a question?
Wait, Sean, just fast, talking back about Bélanger, thank you for the information. But Bélanger was supposed, everything has been approved last year. It was delayed because of something came up that you needed, like, I think it was the ditches, right?
no, the sanitary issue is what surfaced, where, you know what, we figured, let's get this addressed before we start resurfacing and building sidewalks. And that's, you're right, but it was the sanitary capacity issue that was the issue.
Okay, thank you very much for clarification.
If I may, Mr. Chair, just while.
Yes.
Okay, the surface treatment that's recommended for Olivier Beatty in Evansville, does that comprise of the entire road or just a certain portion of those roads?
It comprises of the portions that were treated for IPM.
Okay, so it's not necessarily the entire road?
No.
Okay,
No.
Thank you.
Is there any other question? No?
Well, I do have one then, so is that goes for Evansville also, that just for not the completed road or portion of the road?
No, just the portion that goes to the kind of turnaround, or the portion that was completed from Goulard to the fork there at the.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Sean, you can proceed.
John Street, Nipissing to Clark, and then Clark to Coursol. Obviously, Clark to Coursol will want to look at a sidewalk to kind of tie in all our sidewalks. Again, we'll do closed circuit CCTV inspections on that section as well. And I would recommend going to design so that next year we are ready to go with, we'll have all our storm design complete, sidewalk completed, and we're going to be ready to go to tender. Hopefully that the infrastructure is not too bad, but I am, pretty sure that we're going to have some infrastructure work to do as well. Majot obviously is the continuation from last year. We did all the drainage works. Sabourin is one of our highest maintenance cost in the Sturgeon area. We're if you drive Sabourin on the east side, we did repave the head end, but the remainder is just cold mix upon cold mix upon cold mix. It's way overdue. And then we have Ottawa Spring. That is the kind of L shape between Pembroke and Bay. That section was actually pulverized back in 2016 and kind of just pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. So that's why I think that the residents have been more than patient, and I think we need to repeat that. Cache Bay manholes.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry, we have a question.
Mr. Chair, through you.
Go ahead, Denis.
Just before we end we go to patching, I have a question for Sean about Eugene Road. Is that cold patch that the section, especially from Highway 64 to Rainville, is terrible? I don't know why it's not on the radar. It's hole after hole after hole.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if that's cold patch, could we just, I know it's too late this year, but at least put it on the radar for next year.
It is to my recollection. It's hard for me to memorize all these roads, but it is in the 5-year plan somewhere, and I think it's 2023. But again, don't quote me. But we're gonna.
I'm looking at 2024, Sean, and 2025.
Okay.
but there's granular there. It's not cold patch. I wonder what,
Yeah.
I didn't think that was a granular road.
No, so Eugene Road is a road that was surface treated. Now, I don't know if it was a single surface treatment or a double surface treatment as we did, as we're now doing on Betty and Olivier. But Eugene is surface treated. It's not hot mix HMA, hot mix asphalt.
Why would you put granular in there?
Pardon?
Why would you put granular in there for?
No, what you're
25?
seeing is, so a surface treatment, Councillor
Yeah.
Denis, is basically a tar that you apply over top of granular material. So when that tar breaks down, then you're gonna start seeing what appears to be a granular material, because that's all that's left, right? The tar,
Okay.
the sealer is gone.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that.
Okay.
And I'm just wondering if we can move it up. Eugene is terrible,
Yeah.
just from 64 to Rainville Corner.
Yeah. Again, these capital plans are kind of living documents, because unfortunately we live in Northern Ontario, and some of our roads are going to deteriorate faster than maybe predicted 5 years ago. So that's a constant challenge that, I rely on our patrolmen, our area workers to bring these issues forward. So when roads do deteriorate faster, then we need to bump them up, and some we may be able to defer.
Okay, good. I think you'll get some calls for Eugene this year, so hopefully
Okay.
it comes back sooner. Thank you.
Thank you,
All
Sean.
right. Okay, so we'll move on to patching. That's our ongoing issues in the town of Cache Bay, where manholes seem to grow every year. And, it's part of the Cache Bay subsurface where it's all clay. And so these manholes are a constant challenge. We did do an extensive investigation last summer where we were hoping that the entire structures weren't lifting, because we had found that previous years, some of the entire structures were lifting, and the main was actually kinking, and being bent upwards. But last year, our investigations found that that's not the case. So we're only looking at top sections, so we can reduce the cost a little bit. But I am recommending at least fixing the top sections, so that cars that drive the streets can keep their oil pans.
Sean, a question on that one, if you don't mind. How many
Sure.
will we be able to do in Cache Bay at 15,000?
Well, the bulk of it, we try and do most of them in-house. But
Okay.
the bulk of the cost is for the asphalt patching, right? And so
Okay.
we changed to adjustable frame and covers. We changed the modulocks. There's some excavation cost, hydro excavation cost. Then we got to clean the manholes. How many we'll do? Probably 4 or 5.
Oh, great.
If all
Okay.
goes well.
Oh, great. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Great.
The granular A, I just wanted to clarify. I'm showing 2,000 tons per kilometer. That's on average. Some of the roads you're going to see around 1,800 tons per kilometer, which is, I know to council it doesn't really mean a lot, but I just wanted to clarify that. All these roads are all roads, as the Chair of Public Works stated, these are all roads that were prepared last year and are ready for their granular addition. So I would please recommend not cutting any of these roads if possible. Moving on to sidewalks.
Did you jump the granular? So granular, we're not that, don't have question, we cannot ask question.
Yeah,
Sure.
you could.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can ask.
sure.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Councilor Lees.
Okay, it's because the northern side, I know we put, so the ditching is done, it's ready for that. But someone, I don't know who, had mentioned that, can we do, like, for example, how many inch, somebody, I don't recall the conversation all together. So how many inch of the gravel you usually put? Sean?
North and south, you're going to see between 4 and 6 inches.
Okay,
At-
so is it
at 18 to-
possible? Okay, because I don't know if it's you, Sean, at some point of time we had discussed, or Yvonne, Public Work, I don't know, one of you, we have discussed sometimes that it's better to go and twice, like, for example, if it's 6 inch, to go and put 3 inch, so it goes, ça l'aplati, I don't know, Rolly, you're shaking your head and I'm asking the question to Sean and it's disturbing a little bit. Thank you, Councillor Rolly. Well, it's
Okay.
you're looking
Yeah,
at.
and I can answer that. So as part of the contract, Councillor Elise, we do have a water truck on site and we do have a compactor on site. So when you start cutting roads at 50%, there's additional cost, right? Not only to staff resources, but there's mob and demob costs, you know, there's and again, it's like putting a thin lift of asphalt and we'll get it in 2 years.
Okay.
You know, I wouldn't recommend that because it's just doing the job half kind of, but again, it's a council decision.
No, okay, well, you answered my question. I'm not saying that I don't agree or agree. I heard it somewhere and so thank you.
Mr. Chair, you have individuals with their hands up.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Denis. Denis Seneca.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just while we're at North-South Road, didn't we do some gravel last year? Didn't Councillor Larrabee ask for granular last year? I'm not sure. Did you?
We did some spot treatments only, so no, there was no granular addition.
Okay.
It was just spot treat, and no different than we would do on any other road.
So the brushing and ditching on North-South was, and I remember we had a bill for 77,000. In our budget, it was allowed a lot more than that. I'm just wondering, did you brush and ditch someplace else, or?
No, what happened last year, and if you remember the conversations, we had bidding that was significantly lower than previous years. Previous years we were brushing at $20 a meter, and last year we got prices at $11 or even I think $8 or $9 a meter. So we had really competitive bidding last year for brushing and ditching, which was good for our municipality. And you know, we've changed how we do brushing and ditching. We do it per meter as opposed to on an hourly rate, and things are progressing a lot faster. Because contractors are now wanting to make money and they, you know, they're moving a lot faster than when they were by the hour.
Thank you. Supplement, Mr. Chair.
Yes. Go ahead, Denis.
When we have a surplus or a deficit, it's a surplus, I guess, of the difference goes back to general government, or how is that handled? Just my curiosity. Like they charged us 77. I think we had close to 200. I'm not sure.
That would be.
But does that money go back to general on the surplus?
It goes to a general surplus unless dedicated by council otherwise. So
Okay,
that's the
thank you.
number that that's the number Elise is quoting on the 1.6 million. You know, with the whatever. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Elisa, did you want to add something to that?
I just did want to clarify as well that those brushing and ditching projects were gas tax last year. So that gas tax, when it's not used, rolls over. So that's part of the reason why we've got so much gas tax unused at the end of 2020 that's available for use in 2021.
Thank you. Okay, Sean, proceed.
I think Madam Mayor has her hand up.
I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Chair.
Okay, go ahead, Madam Mayor.
Okay, I just wanted to highlight that in the past, when there were projects that were, depending on the actual cost for completion, sometimes they were spread over 2 years instead of all 1 year. And it allowed other priorities also to be dealt with in the current year. So i.e., as an example, if the granular is divided into 2 years for north and south, there could either be an opportunity for a reduction in overall budget or addressing another priority that council would identify, or you staff, Sean, would identify as another opportunity to tackle another urgency. And that's been done in the past.
So that said, I would recommend not skimming, but doing half the road properly and doing the second half the year after, if that makes sense.
It does. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Any other questions?
Well, so, what do we do? Like, are we making a decision right now, or I think, so we won't get lost at the end to see what was asked for or recommended, so I guess the question,
Mr. Barbo? If I guess the question is do we dispute the itemize or the items one by one, or do we wait till after the budget to this?
Again, you know, council can do what they please. If you're asking a staff member for a recommendation, I think that from a policy perspective, in the absence of additional information, you know, if you want to go and go what your preference is for whatever reason you want, I'm not suggesting negatively or positively, you're going to debate that, not get to a consensus, because everybody parochially will be looking at their own areas, which is, you know, fine. I would hope that Sean and working with his subforeman, his manager, his chair, which I know he has, you know, has looked at what the priorities are. And I think that Sean, behooves Sean to, you know, ensure that there is, as I think Councillor Dennis Senecal indicated, that there's a clear roadmap, you know, if not now, when kind of feeling. And then the other thing that council wants to look at is it's always going to be an unpleasant exercise until we start looking at addressing the infrastructure deficits and how we do that. You know, we need to bite the bullet and start looking at, you know, where our priorities are, including our buildings and so forth. So, you know, so the point is that if there are any glaring differences from what somebody would hope to get done this year and versus what Sean's recommending getting done, then that should obviously be discussed today, right now, so that we can actually move on and get a budget. The other thing, just as I'm thinking out loud, I apologize, but I think it'd probably be in your favor. I know you agree with this, Mr. Chair, is that Sean, you know, whether you're happy or not happy, really has a need, and I'm not suggesting shoving this down, that's why it should be debated, really has a need to move forward with tendering. And so I'm hoping that we can get some sort of close to a plan and some sort of a decision so that Sean can get some marching orders to move forward. I'm sure you agree with that, Mr. Chair. You brought it up last week as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Okay, so we'll go to Councillor Rowley and then the Councillor Lisa. Councillor Rowley?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I think it's imperative that we keep track with what we keep on track with what Sean is recommending, because if we change things for Public Works, it's only bottlenecks at the end. So I think it's all laid out. They are the expert in that field, and I think we should just keep going the way that is recommended by Sean. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lise?
okay, well, now I'm gonna have a comment to what Councillor Rowley said. But, and I'm gonna say that comment very fast. If that's the way it's gonna be done, the only thing we would have to go is look at it and then not do nothing. So which I don't agree, because we have to discuss it, and I think we should. But my question is, Alicia, is when we look and you're talking about the gas tax, is it include the portion, like right now when we're looking at that and the budget that it's requested, the bottom line on that section will be $2,570,000, and it's included the budget, okay, that we saw, like the budget itself, a capital project. So my question to you is, that amount, did you assign some specific money from the tag gas, or it's going to be done after gas tax, whatever, 600 there? My question is not clear, Jay?
Well, I think the document that's assigned is very clear that.
Oh, the document is clear. Well.
Okay, well, so if he's got 2.5 million and he's got $1.3 million, I believe, well, what's the amount, Elisa, in taxation? I don't have it in front of me here. I'm sorry.
It's 2 million.
Hey, pardon me?
The amount for the whole block.
No, I've asked Elisa.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead, Lisa.
So for the capital projects,
Yes.
the amount that is earmarked coming from taxation as opposed to coming from
Yes,
funding sources
Yeah.
is $975,000.
just from taxation.
Just in taxation. That's up 80,000 from last year.
I didn't
One
get it,
million
so-
175.
975?
Oh, 97. Sorry, I couldn't hear you through the. So the remainder of all of that then is gas tax and OCIF.
Okay, but I didn't get the first number, like,
Okay.
sorry.
Okay, so the total amount that he's spending, and we've been able to leverage gas tax and other OCIF funding, which is
Great.
year in, year out. So the issue that I was indicating is that we are only funding less than half of the capital on our own, and we are in a deficit. Despite that, we're not coming at you and asking for a ton of stuff, despite the fact that it's necessary. And we're trying to provide you with a budget that's manageable for you to approve. But that's the answer, is that we're down the line. If you're asking an administrator who's risk averse, you would need to up that 975. Problem is that you have other challenges such as the Chateau and other things. So everything needs to be upped. It's just that what needs to be upped when is the dilemma that council has.
Thank you, but that doesn't answer I didn't get, what is the number you gave of tax, the portion of the taxpayer on the 2,570,000?
975.
The 975 includes all of Sean's capital, including his facility and the
Yes.
infrastructure.
Yeah.
The 975 is all
And
of
the
his
rest
capital.
is grant. Okay, I got my answer. Thank you.
Madam Medes, you had a question?
Well, you know what, I appreciate those numbers because when you look at the document that we were given, I don't see those numbers, or maybe I have to do some quick additions or subtractions. But coming back to the initial comment, like, I'm not debating whatever our employees are bringing forward as projects. That's clear. But I think bottom line is that there's also the equation of affordability. And so far we have a 6.8% budget increase, and it's to find out where we're going to go with the 6.8. Is it going to be sustained entirely, or is there going to be opportunities for wiggle room? So I think this is where there's questions or comments that are being brought forward.
Thank you, Madame Medes. Question, Denis Sénécal.
Yes, I'm looking at the 975 represents almost 5% of tax increase. Is that correct? Or?
No, the 975 is not new money. So there was 895 from tax last year that went towards capital and public works, and we've moved it to 975 as a recommendation for 2021. So there's only $80,000 difference between last year and this year in the amount coming from taxation.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I do have.
Yes, Lise.
Okay, so Alicia, that means that only 80% or 30, but the difference was put in the surplus we have. So if it was not spent last year, it's part of the almost $1.6 million surplus this year, correct?
Not all of it, because things like gas tax and OCIF stay
Yeah,
into
okay.
dedicated.
Okay, good. Thank you, Alicia. So I don't have any problem with to do the whole thing this year. Personally, that's me, but I know that council have to decide as a vote as a whole, but I'm going to say it right now. I have no problem. With the
Okay, thank
numbers.
you. Thank you, Conseillère Lise. Okay, so we'll proceed then. So we'll ask Sean to continue. Thank you.
So we'll move on to the sidewalks portion. If there's no other questions for granular. So sidewalks are a good example of how 5-year plans can get kind of edited, if you will. So these sections of sidewalks were brought up throughout the year by council, and to my knowledge, all of council were in favor of moving forward with these projects this year. Large diameter culverts and bridges, those
I
are.
got a question on sidewalk.
Okay,
So
go-
you said, yeah, well, it's not a question about to do, not to do, but first it was not brought up in 2020, those two. Just to clarify, because I have the capital request from last year. I have Lisgard, obviously it's a major safety issue. Ethel, I do understand that it could be, but we were supposed to hire cross guard to put on Michaud that, because one way or the other, one sidewalk, because we do have a sidewalk on the south side of Ethel. So people that they have to go across to go to school. And I think Jay had mentioned that it was advertised, somebody told me that, but it was not successful, that you're supposed to do it, but we had agreed to have a cross guard there. I think it was gonna cause more, Councillor Dan, you know how annoying, you're telling me when I raise my voice that it's annoying, but when you're shaking your hand back and forth, when we're talking, that's very
I'm just
frustrating.
ensuring, I'm Councillor Lees.
Well, no, but Councillor
A
Dan,
bit of politeness, please. Just be a little
that's what I
polite.
am. I am
okay,
being
all right,
polite.
all right, all right.
Dan.
I got you,
I am
Dan.
being polite.
We'll get back to you when you,
No, you're not
Okay.
being,
Yes, I
okay, go
am.
ahead. Go ahead, Lise, please.
So
Thank
I
you.
think it's more a safety issue, because if there's a sidewalk, there's so many places in this municipality that don't have sidewalk at all. There is a sidewalk on the south side. We had approved cross guard. And thirdly, for me, the bus gonna be stopping that on the north side. It's gonna take space if there's a sidewalk, and it's close to the hospital. And so for me, it's not that I don't want it. I don't think it's we have other places that we could put that $50,000 that they don't have sidewalk. That's my say, and I thank you very much.
Thank you,
So-
Madame Senecal. We'll go to Councillor Dan Rivera. Dan, your mic, please.
first of all, the reason we were having crosswalk guards was to, as a temporary, and that was brought to our attention by the fact that we had a problem and we were going initial. That was supposed to be temporary. What Sean is proposing is that if you look at it from the perspective, there's a stop sign, four-way stop sign on Michaud and Ethel. What he is trying to do is he's trying to get the kids to cross the street, come over to the Michaud, and then come over. The sidewalk's not even going to go to the school where you're saying that they're drop off. It's not going to go that far. So the point is the point being is that if there is an issue there. I run past that. I walk past that every day. There's an issue. The sidewalk will alleviate that. And if you want to have a child get hit by a bus or a car, you're going to have one. It's a security issue. The parents want it. So I don't know where you're coming from, because the crosswalk was temporary.
Thank you, Councillor Dan. We'll go to Lise. You want a supplement question to that?
Yes, I want to supplement, because the cross guard, in my mind, maybe I was wrong, and it's possible, and I will admit it. It was not just temporarily. We had talked about that, and there were 3 different schools that we were supposed to have it. So one. Secondly, if you said it's at Michaud to Whitewood. Okay, so Whitewood is a school, Councillor Dan. So it doesn't jive what you're saying, because that's exactly what it put there. Up to Whitewood. So where is the stop signs going to stop? Not the stop sign, the sidewalk on that side.
Supplement.
Yeah, go ahead, Dan. Respond.
I am not the professional. Sean is the professional. Sean brought it to the table. Sean said that would alleviate the problem we have for safety. The mayor at the time supported it. Everybody around the table supported it. So Sean, can you explain? I'm not the expert on this, but what I'm saying is that your first comment was wrong. Your first comment, it was a temporary.
Please. Yes.
It was a temporary. So let's get that off the table. The second issue was the expert that came to us and explained this would be the way to eliminate the problem. So Sean, can you confirm that, please, for me?
Can you respond to
Sure.
that, Sean?
Sure. So now, when the concern was brought up, I looked at options, and I guess council had requested a crossing guard because we didn't have a sidewalk. Now I looked at the long-term option as opposed to having a crossing guard. The safest place for kids to cross is at a controlled intersection. And we have a four-way stop at the intersection of Michaud and Ethel. The problem is that the section of sidewalk that runs from Michaud to the schools is on the south side. The schools are on the north side. So I was proposing a short piece of sidewalk on the north side of Ethel from Michaud, the controlled intersection, up to Whitewoods. That would alleviate or address the Northern Secondary School. I know that they have a little walking path, but they would have, the sidewalk would span across Northern's property up to Whitewoods. And that would avoid having to hire and continual payment of a crossing guard. And the kids could cross at the controlled intersection and follow the sidewalk to Whitewoods and to Northern. That was an option that I presented to council, and I thought that I had consensus at the time. I apologize if I didn't.
Thank you, Sean. I'll go to Councillor Leo, and then I'll go back to you. Okay, Councillor Alice? Go ahead, Councillor Leo.
Okay, thank you. Sean, on Belanger, you have here 180,000. Didn't we agree on a paved sidewalk instead of concrete? Would that be less?
No, Councillor, no, the exact cost for the option, remember there was 3 options or 4 options? Well, the option that councillor picked, or the councillors picked, or council picked, is what we budgeted for.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the budget.
Okay.
I think for a concrete sidewalk, you're close to $500,000.
That's right.
Okay, so Councillor Alice, did you want to rebuttal on that?
Yes, because again, I want Jay to answer that, because I was under the impression that the cross guard, because we asked one at Resurrection, they were Whitewood and another school, which I don't remember. That's the first question. Excuse me, okay.
Earlier Sorrows.
To finish the one on Eto, I mean, this is what I was saying, and then it goes up to the school. I still think that, like, I don't have a problem. You can, but I don't think it's going to resolve the problem because there's a sidewalk there. And the cross guard, Jay, what was it, temporarily?
I don't, excuse me, I don't recall the temporary nature of it or the permanent nature. I only recall the fact that council approved crossing guards for this past January, and we don't seem to be able to fill those. We're having a hard time filling a lot of positions. People just don't seem to be applying for things. But I don't remember whether it was temporary or permanent. I don't recall, so it probably was not discussed.
I know I'll have to agree with that. At the time, it was a temporary solution to that for that particular cross guard, Mr. Barbo.
Okay.
So, yeah.
3 temporarily cross guard was approved at that time. 3. Why the other 2? Because we're waiting for sidewalk on 3rd and we're walking. Okay, I'm just asking because that was.
I'm sorry. Why what, please? I'm sorry.
I said, so if it was approved just temporarily, so right now, is there in a budget? I know there's one for the Lisgard from the sidewalk that's we talked. And so, but I didn't see one on 3rd for the Resurrection. And that's why we wanted to have a cross guard there. So is there a cross guard sidewalk for Resurrection, this budget? Because remember, that was one of the street that was identified with,
right.
Right?
Maybe if I can be more clear, I don't think there's a direct correlation between the crossing guards and sidewalks per se. I think that we had some complaints from the consortium with respect to safety issues at the Résurrection. And then we had some similar issues, I think that was brought up by the councillor of that ward around, is it near the Larche property or down the, whatever that is. And then I could understand, Elizabeth, thank you. And then I can understand the confusion and perhaps the fact that we may not need a crossing guard if council implements a sidewalk along one side of the property, then it might eliminate the need for that sidewalk, or a crossing guard. But I believe that the other crossing guards were not contingent upon sidewalks or anything like that. I thought they were just a decision council made. But
Okay.
I don't have it directly in front of me, but in any event, if we can, move the capital along, and we'll get the crossing guards later.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Barbeau. Madame Mairesse, you have a question, then we'll go to Chris Fisher.
Well, maybe just a comment. I don't recall that we had discussed the hiring of school guards as temporary measures. I recall that we were addressing a safety concern. And so far, it's true, no success with hiring those guards, but I would hope that we would post those positions ASAP. And any sidewalks adjacent to schools should probably be constructed only when school is during the summer months when kids are not attending school. But you know what? If they were deemed to be temporary, I'd like to see the record of where we had identified that. I do not recall that those school guards were temporary. And I don't recall, sorry, maybe I'm having a blank moment. I don't recall that we had all committed to the construction of a new sidewalk at that specific location.
Okay, so I think that being said, if you don't mind me saying, I think maybe we should go back and see exactly what we were discussing at that particular time to clarify what was said, so that we have a better understanding.
If I may,
if you don't mind, Jake, go ahead.
Well, if I may, I'm not 100% sure that, and respectfully, I think it's really, regardless of what was said, is there an appetite by the majority of council for a sidewalk going to Whitewood? Because, you might have said something and you might think differently with different information right now. So I think the recommendation that Sean made was based on what he interpreted was a decision that was made in terms of making a sidewalk? Or is Sean recommending that from a public safety perspective, given the fact that you have a bunch of different, four corners, a northern school, people out there smoking this, that, there's a lot of people around there, and to not have people cross halfway through the street, there's a sidewalk that should be there, and that might be just a safe thing because it's a very high density area. So Sean, can I ask Sean whether he believes a sidewalk should be put there?
Yes, Jay. And if you recall, I think I had a kind of an aerial view showing the little piece of sidewalk. And, as a matter of fact, all the kids from Whitewoods could walk the sidewalk to the controlled intersection and cross safely. That's the intention.
One last question then.
Okay, no, Madame Mairesse has still had a question.
Yeah, so the proposal of the new construction of that sidewalk is starting at the intersection to the entrance of the parking lot for Whitewood? Is that what is being proposed?
Correct.
Okay.
The Michaud and Ethel intersection on the north side?
Yeah.
All the way to the Whitewoods.
Okay.
The entrance to Whitewoods.
So at the intersection of Michaud, starting that corner up to the entrance, the laneway that leads to Whitewood. Anything from Whitewood up to the intersection of Corsol, no sidewalk.
Not on the north side.
Okay, because that's the bus zone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Thank you. So we'll go to Councillor Chris Fisher.
Just on the topic of sidewalks, I just don't want it to be lost, and I don't see it on here. So I think it's Corsol, or it could be the street behind. What's the sidewalk, or what's the street that's come up in council several times that's kind of desperate for a sidewalk. It's around the hospital or no Chateau.
That's what we're talking about, Ethel.
That's Ethel. That's the one that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Lise Senecat.
Just, yeah, so it goes, so the buses will be parked after the school.
Yeah, they're parked
On that side, like, I mean, they would, on the street, well, Councillor Dan is shaking his hand again, but
No.
sidewalk will go up to the driveway, but where is the bus gonna stop to drop off the kid?
The buses are beyond that, Lise. They're-
Okay, well, that's
yeah,
what I'm
and
asking.
there's lots of room for the buses to
Okay,
park.
and
and
my
it's-
second question, Lisa, I guess if that's part of the gas tax too?
Sidewalks are, yes.
Yeah,
For me?
Sidewalks are, yes. Yep, they're
Okay,
an eligible project.
okay, now you answered my question, and that's money that was, so.
thank
okay.
you. Okay, any other questions?
No?
Okay, so I'll ask Sean to continue. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Moving on to large diameter culverts and bridge repairs. A little bit of background. I think Mayor Joanne mentioned that a while ago, that every 2 years we need an engineer to assess our bridges. They then give us a report on its Ontario Structural Integrity Manual, I believe, is what it's derived from. But regardless, they inspect our large diameter culverts. So any culvert that is more than 3 meters in diameter needs to be inspected. And obviously all bridges need to be inspected every 2 years. So we do 50% of our bridges on an annual basis. Now these, you'll see that the numbers aren't extreme, because these are all kind of small repairs where, they could be guide rails, or they could be bolts. They could be just filling in around bridge abutments. It could be just changing, a few deck boards. So these are all kind of minor, but if we leave, all these minor defects too long, our bridges are going to start deteriorating and potentially faster than we would like, ending up in larger repairs and costs.
Question.
Yes, Madam Menace?
Sean, just for the Champlain Bridge, is that the bridge that we got funding last year by Minister Mulroney to do a very detailed study pertaining to the condition of the actual bridge?
We're not there yet.
You are correct. We did complete the steel fatigue analysis, as well as the detailed bridge deck condition analysis. Those were completed. So now those are in the hands of the municipality. Now what this 50,000 is for the design. And at this point, we need to figure out, is the bridge beyond its life? Are we going for a complete replacement, or are we going to repair the bridge again? But the design team will have to make a decision, or they will kind of look at both and kind of design both in parallel to see what the overall costs and what the, how much life are we buying if we repair it, as opposed to how much life do we get out of a complete replacement. And, I kind of shiver when I think about a replacement. But, we might be there. The design drawings are 1942. So the bridge is, it's old. It's, yeah.
So subsequent, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, go ahead, please.
So the money that we got last year, we were not able to do any work pertaining to the assessment or the steel assessment. Was there any work that we did so far as doing the assessment of a portion of that bridge? Or are we starting just now this year?
No, the assessment was done, Madam Mayor. So the steel fatigue, so they check and make sure that all the steel members are still adequate, that they're not corroded to the point that the bridge is going to collapse. And so they analyze all the structure, and then they do the bridge deck as well. So no, the money that last year was spent to complete that analysis. So that was done. That part of it is done. So now
Okay.
this 50, this 50 is for the design. So where do we go next, right? Type of deal. So do we repair the defects or do we replace the entire bridge? That's where we're at. And that's what this money will be for. Keep in mind that we need Connecting Links funding for this. And we did apply, and I don't think that we've had a response yet.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madame Medes. Okay, so Denis Senecal and then Chris Schuster. Denis?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Looking at the documents, Sean, and I guess it's the whole of council. I have residents in Nature's Trail that have no bridge. The bridge has been downgraded to 5 times. They are our residents and they're paying the same taxes as other residents. Why are we not even looking at this bridge in the budget? I mean, it's been brought up before I was a councillor. It's still on the table. And we keep getting locked down on this. And I think it's time that council does something with this bridge. If you're not gonna fix it, well, let's send a letter to the residents that you're on your own. And you don't matter. I think enough is enough. It's they need it for the schools, they need it for oil, they need it for wood, they need it for maintenance. And I think it's time that, I think like last year or the year before, we had said we'll put some money aside and eventually we'll catch up, but it doesn't seem to have any interest. And I brought it forward, I think, 3 times this year. I was assuming that at least we'd have a discussion on it at budget time, but we can't just put our heads in the sand here. It's ours, it's our responsibility, and we have to do something at some point. So there has to be a starting point. And I'm very, very upset that it's not even on the budget. We brought it up 3 times at least last year. So maybe somebody is not in favor of it, but it has to be done. So I think they deserve to have as much say as any other bridge in the wards. And I know. Anyways, you get my point, and that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Denis. Jay will have something want to say something.
Well, just to clarify, my understanding of it is the reason, there is money set aside, it's in a dedicated reserve, and council had taken a formal decision on their position on that. And so unless that decision happens where they want to provide a blanket approval to move forward with it, we're constrained by a council decision to limit the amount of funds available. So I'm not arguing against Councillor Senecal, but if council wants to change that, then of course it would have been added accordingly. Thanks.
Okay, a rebuttal to that, Denis, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I mean, other issues are coming up, and they just, as soon as they're mentioned for sidewalks or whatever it is, whoops, it's right on the budget. Depends who wants it and who doesn't want it. So at any time you want to vote, a recorded vote that we don't care about the bridge at Nature's Trail, that's fine. So I can tell my residents that you people don't care. That's all. They're after me to do it. So if you don't care, you don't care, but let's vote on it. I don't care.
No, okay. I'm going to
respond
to that. I'm going to respond to that, Denis. We dedicated many years ago $400,000 for that bridge. Okay. Now don't say that we don't care. We dedicated $400,000, and there was, we've been having trouble to locate it, to do things with it because the people were a rebuttal. They weren't happy as to what we wanted to do. But don't say we don't care, because we did that, and we could have done a lot with $400,000 in those days. So don't say the council does not want to take care of it. I mean, it gets to a point where enough's enough. If you really are serious about the thing, let us do our work. But then if you stop us, then prices get higher. So the council of the day did care about that bridge, and we dedicated $400,000. Okay, Denis, you want to respond?
Just a rebuttal here. I wasn't there when they put the $400,000. That's fine. We appreciate that, but there's been no movement in 4 years. These residents are wondering why. They're paying high taxes. And if I don't see if this council doesn't want to do it, that's all I want to know. If they don't want to do it, let's tell them that they're on their own. But I think we have a responsibility as a municipality to take care of our residents. So that's it. That's all I'm going to say on this.
Okay, thank you, Denis. Councillor Rowley.
I was next, excuse me,
Oh,
my hand
okay.
was next.
Okay, I seen Rowley. Okay, go ahead, Councillor. Liz.
Okay, and I just want to, because apparently was, and I remember we had discussed it, but was it said that we don't want to proceed with that? Because I'm not too sure about what the decision was made that council. I don't think it was said that that's it, we're not looking into that. And if that's what the decision, that's what I'm asking. So Jay, if you come back, and I know you're somewhere, oops, okay, you changed place. So you said, no, I was looking where Sean is. So you said that we had voted that we're not looking in that bridge anymore.
So the chair's right, and thanks for clarifying, Councillor Senecal, with respect to a council decision, because the implication that it's staff, well, we're not. We don't have any skin in the game. You want to build a bridge, we'll build it wherever. But the decision that council took back in the day was that it was going to be limited at $400,000, and that we were going to, any addition to that, and it was around the 600 mark, would have to be done as a kind of a local improvement charge or discuss with them some financing. And then it got blocked there, and some information with respect to design and fisheries and blah, 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 getting information from MNR North Bay versus MNR Sudbury and all of that stuff got blocked around. And so right now, I believe Sean has still worked with the engineering firm as well to, I believe, create an additional design. There were some other issues with respect to how much it would cost, but and then I believe, and this is where you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think council, even of this day, indicated that we should really look at getting additional funding somewhere, somehow, to assist and get the taxpayer portion funded by another manner. So council right now has an option of increasing the amount of what they want to contribute to that bridge, getting rid of it altogether, which may be a little bit extreme. We haven't given up the fight yet. And or paying for it altogether. So those are your three options with the bridge to where Wolsey Bay, I believe. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so Jay, again, I'm just going to summarize really fast, is that this council did not make a decision that we don't want to talk about the bridge anymore, and nothing to do with that. Okay, so we did not talk about that. Alicia, now back to you. Where are you? Which corner are you? Oh, you're there. Okay, so Alicia, would it be part of a tax, the gas tax? With a portion would qualify to that, because we have a lot of money in the gas tax.
So, so there is kind of 400,000 that's sitting in reserve.
Yeah.
So that amount's there. Bridges absolutely do qualify for gas tax. Now, if we're going with the $1 million fix on this bridge versus a $700,000 fix, then I'm not sure how much gas tax I've got left to share around. So we would need to take a look at what dollar it is. Yes, council wants to do it. And then I would see if that meant that we had to adjust other things, because I'm not sure I've got the gas tax left over to fund the whole bridge right now.
Supplement to that. If there's, and I'm sure you can do that, kind of look at it to see which portion can be attributed. I think at some point of time too, we had mentioned that we could take a loan with infrastructure and for 10 years, something like that, which would be very minimal for the difference, and it would be over. It need to be done at some point of time, right? Because I
have to tell you, with financing, it's really difficult to get financing that's less than $1 million.
Oh, well, then, you can give me the difference of what goes on the bridge. That would be appreciated. Okay, but.
Okay, I'm going to ask Mr. Barbeau to speak.
Well, the only thing is that, you have and I'm making no comments at all about this project, but you have before you a lot of projects, and then you have a lot of projects in the queue, and it becomes a council prioritization and decision. So if you're using gas tax, it's not exactly, it's money that you're deciding to allocate there as opposed to where it would have gone somewhere else. So it becomes a council decision as to whether you want to take off $300,000 or $400,000 in Sean's capital plan right now and put $400,000 into the bridge and for this year's capital. These are council decisions that you can make right now, but council has made a decision that they maxed out at 400 and that we're waiting to see what other issues can prevail and when it rears its head to become a priority. Unfortunately, we're in a very large area with a very disparate population, and that's the problem that certain people on the outer edges face, unfortunately. But it becomes a decision at council right now whether you want to say get rid of it, let's do it, or the original council decision is no, here's what we're doing. Do you want to do it? And here's what it would cost you residents in terms of a local improvement charge, or don't do it at all. So those are the issues that council wants to debate on. And it's a fair conversation to have right now.
Thank you, Jay. Mr. Fisher, please.
So I have an actual different question, but I just want to comment on this first. So as the chair mentioned, you know, that $400,000 was put there a number of years ago, and the buying power of that $400,000 probably is not today what it was then. You know, I'm hearing sort of $700,000 or somewhere around there, and correct me if I'm wrong, to do that bridge. And I think what's prudent, and I think what Dennis is asking, is that we up public works contribution, you know, reserves, and top that up so that at least we are sort of going down the road so we can fix that bridge. Because at the moment, like the gap between that $400,000 and what's going to be required to put that bridge there is going to continue to grow. And if we're not adding to that reserve, then, you know, that bridge is never getting fixed. Anyway, that's just a comment on that. I just want to go back to the bridges in general, and I just want to ask this Larocque, I'm guessing that's a typo. Is that Myra Larocque? And if it is, are we talking about the bridge that's all the way down the end that goes over Pike Creek? And if not, is it the other bridge on the highway? Thank you.
Sean, can you respond to that?
That's Pike Creek Bridge, Councilor Fisher. And very minor repairs, but still repairs required before we completely lose the bridge.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so just to move on from here, Denise Senecal did bring up a good point. Maybe we should reintroduce the discussion on that bridge, and I would suggest that it be brought up in the future council meetings so that we can speak further on this, and that Sean maybe can look into what's happening and where we're at, and give us an overview of what's needed and how much more is going to cost. So I'm just as a suggestion, I hope council will approve that so that we move on from that. I think Dennis Senecal, Councillor Senecal had a point there. We can't just brush it off. We do have to discuss it. So I would suggest that we put this on the agenda in the near future, and that we go on with the discussion further and see where we're at and where we're going to go with this, because we got to go someplace. So I thank you for that. Councillor Chris Fisher.
So I agree with you, but I think sort of at the end of this budget, like I want to get through all the budget and understand it, but I don't think this goes on the council agenda. I think this gets talked about during this budget, because this is our opportunity to do something or not. If we kick it down the road and talk about it in in the summer or something, well, we're gonna say budget's done and whatever. So I think this needs to be something that we look at. Are we, just generally, what are we doing about this, about budget and reserves and future projects and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Now is the time to deal with it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fisher, but there's more to it than meets the eye. And Jay's going to elaborate more
So,
on that.
Yeah, just real quick.
So, Mr. Chair, I've been having my hand
Oh,
go
I'm
up
sorry,
and
Madame
down,
Medes, I
but
can't
you
see.
know what? Let the CEO speak, and
Yeah, I'll
if
get to
the
you.
issue's addressed,
So, two
fine. If
things.
not, I'll speak.
Fair
Okay.
enough. So two things. One from a governance perspective, I agree with your recommendation, Mr. Chair, but I just want to make sure from a governance perspective that it should be put on an agenda to be dealt with thoroughly and properly. And if that's the case, if there's 5 people that agree, just go like this, everybody. Okay, good. I just want governance. And then the second thing I'd like to ask along the lines of Chris Fisher, is Sean and Melanie. I know it's beyond the Friday from our procedural bylaw, but can we package something for next Tuesday on Public Works? I think we can, eh? We have enough to provide an update, Sean? Yeah. So my suggestion, given the fact that there's no need for a forum, is that we will put this on next Tuesday's Public Works agenda, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Jay.
Thanks.
Joanne, did Madame Medes, did you want to elaborate more on that? Or?
Well, I did have some comments. I don't want to drag the issue further. But it's true, at one point, council did decide, you know what, we're going to treat this as a community improvement program. Fine. But that was like last year, a year ago. So when projects are required to be dealt with and have not been dealt with, they should be part of the package the subsequent year to see whether or not, if council wishes to pursue it or not pursue it. That's my comment. I do know that Conseil Denis did bring up the bridge issue at council. There was also even a delegation with the minister that took place at AMO in August, and an update was provided to council. There was one option that the minister strongly recommended that we should explore is obtaining a loan for the difference, because at the moment there was no grant money available, and there's already an active file. But thank you for bringing this forward to the next meeting, and that could be also a venue, because I do know from the information that was gathered from staff, the decking, which initially was not going to be replaced, but now the clock is ticking, because that decking had a lifespan of 10 years at the time that we dedicated the reserve. And now probably by the time we deal with it, may have maybe 4, maybe 5 at the most. And once that decking is no longer usable, it means people no longer have access by vehicle to cross over.
Thank you, Madame Medes. Lisa Nican?
One last
Conseil?
question, and Jay, thank you very much for recommending to put on the council meeting next Tuesday. But will that be possible if we wait for that we'll be able, maybe, because we finished with a surplus. I'm not saying that to take $400,000 and finish the bridge, but there a portion will be able to allocate it in the reserve till we make a decision or till we have the money. Would it be too late to do that? Because we're going to be finishing public work today.
Well, to answer you, wow, that would be, to think that next Tuesday would be too late is music to my ears, because I don't think you're going to be at any decision-making point by next Tuesday. So you probably will have a lot of time. So if we finish the capital and take a break when we should here, then Steph will give his operations. Then the next part would be in a subsequent meeting. Steph will give his capital, then the fire. Then we'll have discussions about how to use the reserve, how to use the surpluses strategically. There's no real detailed discussion as to a final budget that's going to happen until mid to end of next week.
No, and I know that, Jay, thank you very much. But I just want to see if you want to put it, because we're going to be finishing public work today. That will be done today as far as capital.
Only the initial. It isn't that there's no vote or anything. It's you bring some back, especially if it's on a council discussion in a week.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Thank you, Jay.
Great.
Leo, you have a question? Councillor Leo?
Yes, could we go take a break? 10-minute break?
Yeah, I think that if
Yeah.
there's,
After we're done with this?
As long as we're finished capital, at least the initial. If there are other questions, I don't
Okay.
want them to come back for a minute and a half. It is I think we're
Okay.
probably done.
After this, after capital.
well, yeah, let's continue on capital as Jay's mentioned. So,
Yeah, but
we'll,
we still have a few to go on capital, and I think we need a break. It's over an hour and a half. We have to finish page 5, and we got page
6.
4 that have to do with, no, that's it, I guess, eh? Jay?
No, we just have to finish page 6.
Exactly.
Let's move forward, please.
No, but
page,
there's more than page 6.
No, that's it. Page
Those are the
6,
things-
Sean, you want to continue?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chair. So that would, moving on from large diameter culvert and bridges, we move on to brushing and ditching. So brushing and ditching is pretty self-explanatory. These, you're gonna see Bélanger on there. That's to address the drainage issues that we have currently on Bélanger and part and parcel with the entire project. The rest of the roads are roads that we are struggling to maintain due to lack of drainage. Secondary ditches have been, building up over the years. The roads aren't draining. Some of them are overgrown, not dry enough. So just really a struggle to maintain. And so strongly recommended that we brush and ditch this year.
Were there any questions?
Yes,
There is a question?
yeah, Councillor Dan was before me, I think.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, now we got the screen.
Okay,
Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
thank you, Mr. Chair. Bélanger, like what, brushing and clearing, can you explain to me how you do blushing and cleaning when it's a dirt, okay, just explain it to me. How you do it.
So it's yeah, sorry, Councilor Ravita. As I explained it, it's not, there's no brushing, obviously, you're in a rural area, but it's all ditches. So the ditches need to be cleared out. There's some catch basins that'll need to be strategically, it's more a drainage to address the current drainage issues, hence why the road is deteriorated to the way it is, right? If a road doesn't drain, it'll look like Bélanger looks right now.
Thank you. Very good answer.
Thank you. Conseiller Lise?
Just a question, just to clarify, I don't know what it means, tributaries. What
Okay,
is that,
so,
Sean?
okay, so tributaries are all the little ditches that contribute to a bigger ditch. So
Okay,
So Dutrizac is quite, the whole watershed for Dutrizac is really extensive. And so we'll, instead of doing it all in 1 year, well, we start at the low end and we chip away at it, and eventually the whole watershed drains, right? So
okay, so for clarification, so will some brushing will be done on Dutrizac itself or just on the thing that goes on Dutrizac?
that's right. So there are some tributaries to Dutrizac drainage that need brushing. Some of them are municipal drains, but mostly Dutrizac will be ditching.
Okay, good. Thank you, because that was from, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Madame Lise. Madame Meres, I see you. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The issue of Delhomme Road and the brushing and ditching, will that clear up the water problem in that area? I think there was a lot of comments that were shared to members of planning board on Monday night pertaining to water. Is it going to be part of a drainage plan or is it part of a municipal drain?
No, what's planned here is only the roadside drainage.
Okay, thank you.
Roadside drainage.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, we will proceed to rail crossings, Sean.
Okay, rail crossings, and I understand if council is frustrated with these, I keep bringing them back on the table. I guess 2 years ago, OVR had approached me and had identified crossings that absolutely had to be done. They were apparently safety concerns, and so I had started putting money aside, and I keep probing OVR, who are the maintainers of these rail crossings. Unfortunately, the municipality cannot on their own undertake these projects. So we need the cooperation, and the projects need to be done and completed in conjunction with OVR. Unfortunately, I'm not really getting any interest from OVR to fix these crossings. But what I'm worried about is if we remove it, they could at any point in time, shoot me an email, and then I'm stuck having to do these crossings. So that's why I kind of want the money there to complete them.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Madame Beres?
last year, I believe that we had put like approximately 40,000 for 2 crossings. And I think at one point, Sean, you updated council that here again, that was the same problem by not having, the direction or support from OVR to get it done. I believe Corsol in Leclerc. So is that work, has it been done, or is the money aside for it to get done? Or is it still required to be done in the event that they fire off an email saying that it needs to get done?
Sean, can you respond?
I see Alyssa also has her hand up.
Oh, okay,
Sorry.
okay. Let's go to Alyssa before Sean.
Yeah,
Go
Sean
ahead.
has planned a few of these projects over the last couple of years to try to get the rail projects in. The funds have been allocated out of the OCIF fund, so there are actually $60,000 of OCIF that is now carrying for the rail crossings that have been assigned in prior years.
Okay, and subsequent to that, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, please.
The fact that we're dedicating some funds to get this done, because, it is a priority that they get done at one given point. I'm trying to understand why we don't take advantage of saying we're going to put those monies in a dedicated reserve, because those are priorities that need to get done. Is it because we're using funding and not general taxes? And if we're planning on using funding, well, I would imagine that funding does have a timeline by which the money needs to be spent.
So that's why it's not in a dedicated reserve, is because the OCIF by itself is a dedicated reserve, and I just kind of hold them aside. The OCIF and gas tax both have got a running turnover time. So OCIF, they both require we use the funds within 5 years, but they don't know that it's this project that's sitting still here and not that one. OCIF does, because OCIF actually knows these projects are sitting open. But I could collapse those projects and start new projects in OCIF, but it's just a rolling fund, a rolling balance. So it's not that the funding is going to expire.
Okay.
But council can just say, you know what, I'm tired of waiting on these and I want to dedicate the OCIF funds to other stuff. But that's why they're not in a dedicated reserve, is because they're in the OCIF.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madame Beres. Conseil Lise, and then Mr. Chris Fisher.
Okay, so because we finish, I just, okay, no, I'm gonna wait till because it's still traffic light, right? Okay, I'll
Yes.
ask my question after.
Okay, Councillor Chris Fisher?
I hate to ask this question because I really want to break, but so just out of interest, why doesn't the railway company or the users of the railway, the CP and VIA or whatever, whoever uses that track, why are they not kicking in for payment on infrastructure that is actually associated with their track that runs through our municipality? If that's, I don't know if that's a crazy question or not.
No, I think, well, I'll let Sean respond to that. Sean, if you may.
Councillor Fisher, I wish I could answer that, but that's the way it is. We, even for, water main crossing under a rail bed, we pay for that crossing, even though there's no impediment, there's no, the pipe is underground, but if it's crossing a rail bed, and I think the rationale is that the rail was there before the municipality.
Quick answer, railway was here first. They have the right of way through it, and we are actually borrowing on them.
Thank you, Jay. That's good.
Thank you.
So they're telling us to repair it. We put the money aside to repair it, but they're not giving us the green light to repair it.
That's right.
Correct.
That's exactly
their assistance for flagging, and it needs to be a joint joint project.
So is there anyone that we can advocate or complain to, saying that, you know what, it's not proper infrastructure improvement or meeting the needs of what they're telling us to meet the needs? Like, I mean, at a given point, if they continue stressing that we need to repair it, we may turn around and say, well, you know what, we won't, because why bother?
Well, yeah, I think it's a bigger issue, and not to pick at Councillor from Ward 8, but you're dealing with railway people is like trying to get a street light up with Hydro One, eh? It's
that's what it is.
That's the analogy I'm going to give you. Is this you keep on pushing, but it's bigger than all of us.
And I have to agree with that, Madame Medes, because it's an ongoing situation where they decide and they do what is good for them. And if we pressure them, we're going to end up waiting longer. Councillor, and that's true. So that's the way the world turns. Councillor Rowley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, it's true. It's their property. We are crossing on their property, so they have all of the power on this one. So it's their call. We are using their property. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anything else? So we'll move on to that other item. Sean, that's the traffic light.
The traffic light's a little bit deceiving. That's actually the traffic impact study that council had voted in favor of proceeding with. So,
Yeah.
and that the RFQ is closing, I believe, at the end of March. I did receive one quotation so far. Hopefully we get a few more. And so yeah, that's we're moving on that one.
Thank you, sir. And that study was part of the request.
Question about that.
Yeah, I'm just saying that study was part of the request of council from before. Okay, go ahead, Lise. You have a
So,
question?
and is that part of a connection link?
No, the traffic impact study is not, right? Because
Okay.
the intersection is ours. Connecting links is,
Okay, no, thank you, Sean. So that finished, I can ask my question because, so to just make myself very clear, we're not gonna be discussing capital equipment for public work. And we're not gonna be discussing public work facility, capital public work facility today, because that's part of public work. That's why I was saying that we're not finished with capital work after this.
Well,
No, that's a
No.
good point.
Madame Medes, did
I
you want
mean,
to?
that's what I was told, that we're finished with capital
No.
for
No.
public work, but we're not finished, right?
That's right. We're not finished.
So, but we're good for a break. Thank you.
Yeah, we're good for a break.
And
So,
so
So
far,
we need-
everything is been, up to now, clarifying, everything has been approved. So,
no.
well, up to
No,
now
no.
for public work.
But no, I'm sorry. Conseil Alice, he's presenting his projects. And at one point at a time, during one period, we'll have to decide at what rate we're going to charge our taxpayers. Then we're going to have to decide where we're going to cut.
Well, I beg to defer. We were told, because they need to do some, whatever they call it, like a tender. And today, I'm understanding that the public work capital will be passed on the budget for them to go ahead. So am I right or wrong? So
You're
we're
wrong.
waiting another 2 weeks.
Yeah, you're wrong. Yeah, we have to complete the budget. I
No,
mean,
it's okay. It's okay
I'm
because
on-
I asked at the beginning,
Yeah,
excuse
we've
me.
done this in the past, Madam.
I know
Seneca.
that, but we did
But-
it differently and I asked at the beginning, I just want to be clear. I don't really care one way or the other, but we were pressed last week to finish capital work so they can send a tender. And I'm trying to work with staff here. Apparently, they need to send the tender as fast as possible. So, and it won't be finished today and it won't be finished next week either because we still have a lot of things to do. So, whereas Jay was saying that he would be working on proposal, but Jay, the only thing he can work, he cannot send anything because budget will not be approved. I'm just trying to help staff.
It doesn't,
That's okay.
Okay,
Mr.
okay.
Chair.
Madam
Uh,
Medes, please.
Well, okay, there's no right and wrong. I think staff does need a direction on how to proceed
There you
with, but it doesn't mean that every project needs to be identified on the RFPs. Like, I mean, there's legwork involved in retaining contractors for asphalt. Possibly, there might be some work that's going to be done internally, ditching. If there's work that's required externally, it doesn't prohibit, from doing a call of interest or proposal, but then defining exactly everything. I mean, I don't think that that's the direction that staff is looking for today. I see Alyssa has her hand up.
Okay, Alyssa, can you respond, please?
I just want to clarify about how the RFQs go out. The RFQs go out with the list of projects so that people know what they're bidding on. They know specifically how many kilometers, how deep the ditches, how bad the brush is. So the RFQs, when they go out, do go out with specific projects attached. Asphalt the same, so that they know how much it is and we know how much is required. So it's not that we do blanket RFQs just to see what the asphalt price in general might be. So unfortunately, we do them with a list of projects.
Well, subsequent to that, thank you for the point of clarification. Subsequent to that, what I heard as far as contentious issue or where issues were brought up had to do with granular, potentially sidewalk and potentially bridge. And the issue of the bridge, Nature Trails Bridge, that's going to be dealt with next Tuesday at council meeting. The issue about granular, I don't know, there's only one road that was identified throughout the presentation. And the sidewalk, we had a discussion pertaining to Ethel. So I think that, very soon, those two items should be decided upon.
I think we had decided, but anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
So right
All right.
now, Mr. Chair, if you are recommending a break, can you ask for a mover and a seconder for a resolution?
Okay, I'm just gonna ask Dan has something to mention, and we'll go from there. Okay, for one last comment, Dan?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that the point of being of the Ethel Street sidewalk, there was no contentions in that. It was brought to the table because it was a prior discussion that we had that it was necessary for the security of the kids. And it was based on a letter from the consortium that looks after the buses, and it was based on a letter from the school stating that that was an issue. So I think it's not an issue. I think it should be moved forward.
And I'm not debating the issue. I'm just saying those were the two line items that have been brought up as far as discussion and question. So I think council will make a decision on those two items so we can give proper direction to staff.
Okay, thank you, Madame Medes. I need a mover and a seconder for the break, Chris and Rolly. Melanie?
It is moved by Councillor Fisher and seconded by Councillor Netherby at approximately 3:05 p.m. Motion is made for a 15-minute recess.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you, Melanie.
Welcome.
We'll see you in 15 minutes.
Good job.
So I think we're ready to resume, Mr. Chair. I think we're only missing Conseil Denis Senecal. You are on mute, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so now we'll proceed. I'm going to ask Sean a question here. Sean, did you want to speak of the deferred capital projects? Just mention it, or?
I can. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. Those and you know, in years prior, you probably would not have seen these projects, but I know that certain councillors would kind of question, well, why is it that last year? So basically, looking at 2022 this year, when you look at the 5-year plan, you know, certain councillors weren't sure why projects were promised for 2021 but weren't done, right? So I'm just showing that per priority, these are the projects that I'm proposing to defer to 2022. Another important note is that now what you've done to 2022 is added 1.35 million. So next year, you're going to see a bunch of deferrals as well, depending on, you know, how certain roads have held up. And so it's a snowball effect, right? Similar to deferring half of north-south. Well, this number will in fact increase. So you're essentially, can I save now, pay later kind of budgeting, right? So that's all that I'm showing.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Sean. I guess I guess there are no questions. We'll proceed.
I do have a
I'm sorry.
comment.
Okay, now I see you. Thank you, Anna.
I do have a comment, Mr. Chair. I concur with what our manager of public work is saying, you know, by the deferral. When I look at the list of what's being deferred to 2022, many of those roads, I have an idea where they are, but not having received complaints, for the exception of Pine Poultry, where that actual road, there were several videos, photos, emails that were shared to elected officials. As soon as there's a rainfall, there's portion of that road where people are traveling, where the road is covered with water. So I have what do you tell people for this upcoming season, that with new builds on that road and having no ditches, and how can they navigate on that road when there's water over the road?
Again, Madam Menace, if I may point out, it's again up to council to decide what our intent is. And it's based on, if we decide to do anything to that road this year, fine. If not, and we wait till next year because it's on next year's budget, that again is this council's decision. So I'll go to Councillor Rowley and Conseil Elise.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, this, especially Pine Poultry, was scheduled for this year, and see now is being pushed back. And there was a comment that was made at the beginning that we're working on we've done all our roads. We're working on the second time on our roads. This is not the case. Pine Poultry has had touch-ups at the best, and that road really needs attention, and it needs it now. And I'm definitely not for deferring to next year. It has to be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rowley. Conseil Elise, did you want to elaborate on something?
Well, I was saying that I agree that something needs to be done about it. So can we, because there's stage in every road that you do, like before you pave it or you put gravel, there's things. So can we prepare the road for next year, which if we prepare it, it's going to be a lot better, or can you do the whole thing? Because I could change that for something right now that I see that I won't support it very fast, but we can discuss, yes.
Okay, and you know what, I'm going to refer this to Sean. Sean, as you know, when Councillor Elise mentions prepare, there's brushing and ditching. And of course, that has to be done before we do anything else. And do you have a general idea, Sean, as to what it would cost to brush it and ditch it for this year?
Where's
We
Sean?
have,
That's the estimated cost is on there, Mr. Chair. Just maybe to clarify and to maybe appease, we're not, it's not that we're not going to do anything on pine poultry. If there are flooding issues, we're going to adjust. I mean, we still have our operating staff that are available for, all I'm saying is that we would defer a capital project. So if there's, and I know there was an issue with a plugged screen on a cross culvert for road flooding, but staff are aware of certain areas that need to be opened up. And therefore, we would definitely send our own troops, our own equipment up there to try and buy us time until next year, where we can do the entire road as a capital.
is there, if I may,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Chair,
Yes, everybody. Yes.
okay, does it mean maybe we don't have to make the decision today, because we're not making the decision today either for Nature Trails Bridge, but can we at least have pine poultry kept part of the equation until we finish or we get near the end of our budget? And if there's any areas that council wants to reconsider, we can do it at that time. But would there be an appetite to also incorporate pine poultry as a capital project for this year?
Well, that's a question. I'm sorry. That's a valid question, ma'am. That is. I'm going to ask two other councilors to speak, and then we'll decide on that question. Chris Fisher and then Dan Ravita. Chris.
So I did see photographs of pine poultry as well. I see for the 2022 that basically it's down for gravel, but I don't see it on the brushing and ditching list. And I thought it was ditches. I vaguely remember the email and the photographs, and I thought the complaint was about ditches and that type of thing. So could you just clarify what that actually needs there, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. We'll go to Sean for that answer.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right, Councillor Fisher. Brushing and ditching is done. That's been our kind of policy, and it seems to work well for us, where we brush and ditch, and the subsequent year we granular resurface. That's why I wanted the deferred projects to be known to council, because now if we defer to 2022, you get the snowball effect, right? So now the granular would move to 2020. We'd do brushing and ditching in 2022. The granular would be 2023, unless otherwise directed by council, where you would want to do the entire project in 1 year, where you brush and ditch and granular resurface.
Thank you, Sean.
Can I just
supplement? Yes, go ahead.
So Sean, and just a bit. So I think what you've said, unless I've missed it, and pine poultry is somewhere else, because it's actually not. We've got it down for granular next year, not brush and ditching.
Yeah.
And so
on page 7 of deferred 2021 capital project, page 7 of 23, brushing and ditching.
Okay. Got it.
That's where pine poultry is listed for the amount of 239.
Right. Thank you. I was missing that. That's what is missing. Thank you.
Okay. Dan, did you want to speak on something?
No, I'm okay. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
So,
okay. Is there any other questions? Lise?
Okay, well, that doesn't tell us which direction we're going to be taking this year, because it seems that we need to do something. So what Sean had said, that any work that people that complain, or if there's water, whatever, that operation can do it this year. And next year, everything's going to be done at the same time. Is that what you're saying, Sean?
I'm saying, yes. We're good. Like operationally, you're not going to see the entire pine poultry road brushed and ditched. No. What I'm saying is that we would address problem areas as best we can with the resources that we have. It's not that we're not going to do nothing this year. but it'd be done, under our operating budget, not as a capital project as a whole.
Thank you, sir. So I'm going to go to Rowley.
Well, I kind of disagree with this because it ends up costing more. Doing patch up here and these people need a good road. I've seen myself go in and have to put it in four-wheel drive when it's rainy season. There's clay in there, so it needs to be addressed. That's it. Thank you.
All right, point well taken. So we did have some concerns, and Madame Medes is saying that we should maybe look at this quite seriously through the budget. So everybody, I guess we don't have any problems in looking. Does anybody have any problems looking at it and working on it? Is all in favor for that? Okay, so we're going to look at it.
Can I just?
Pine Poultry will be part of this budget this year. I'm sorry, Chris, you want a question?
Can I just make a comment? So, I see Muskasong Road patching and also when I was looking at Leduc, and I'm just wondering because I know that Miller is going to be here in a couple months, and they're redoing the 539 from basically the 64, well, right around. And I know they have the subcontractors, and they've got the large diameter culverts. And I'm just wondering for a few projects in this area that sort of to be opportunistic, because the people are here, the equipment are here, whether those people might be able to do them at a much cheaper price than you would regularly when you're not hauling equipment. Just a thought. Thank you.
Point well taken, Chris. I'm not sure, Sean, do you think there's a possibility of that?
Yeah, there's always a possibility, but Miller are typically the company who get our work in-house. For the past 2 years, it's been Miller. So I'm not sure how much the pricing would change, right? They would kind of be cutting their own necks if they would give us. I'm not sure, but I can't predict quotations. So for that reason, it's hard for me to say. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my point is that they're right here anyway with the equipment, the manpower, and the material needed to do a few of these jobs right locally. So just a thought. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm just going to ask the members of council to realize that when Sean presented a $2,570,080 budget, we're now going to add the Pine Poultry Road to it, and that's $239,000 more. Okay, because now Pine Poultry, as requested by council, does now become part of the budget. Conseillère Lise?
Well, yes, I think maybe we can wait till, because we're not over, there might be some savings somewhere else. And if we cannot do everything, we can surely start doing by maybe brushing and whatever, ditching only. Oh, no, that's
Okay.
what's proposed, 239. No, but
Yeah.
when he's talking about what the road that Mr. Councillor Fisher have mentioned, it's patching, and I'm sure that patching and brushing, are they the same equipment that it's used?
No, it isn't.
Same, so.
No, it's
when
not.
Christopher Fisher said that he can look because it's the same equipment, it's not the same equipment, so. That would
No,
be wrong. Okay.
no. What it means is that in the vicinity of that area, there is some work that is going to be done. I assume, Mr. Fisher, with paving, and that equipment could be used to repair a portion of Muskasson Road. Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Yeah, and they're also changing large diameter culverts right here. In fact, on the corner of Leduc and Highway 539, there's 2 large diameter culverts. So that's another company doing that.
Okay,
So-
thank you, sir.
So, Mr.
Okay, Madame Menes, please, yes, and then
So,
Leo.
so the patching that's being deferred for Muskasong is 20,000. And if memory serves me right, we rehabilitated that road a few years ago. So if we push that project down the road another year, does it mean that the cost for the patching is going to be higher? Like, I mean, would it not be prudent to consider doing the patching if we have a paving company within that area and get that portion completely done and have the lifespan that we predicted with the investment that's been done on that road?
It's a question that I'll have to ask Sean.
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Chair, if you recall, prior to my employment there was a study done on Muskesong Road and why it was deteriorating, and it had just been paved a few years prior, and so the study there was 3 solutions to the study, and I think back in 2016-17 my recommendation was, and these solutions were hefty. The issue with Muskesong Road is the sub base. So they essentially paved on poor conditions. So the road, depending on the weather patterns, depending on the amount of frost we get in a specific year, reacts differently and deteriorates at different levels. So what we had said, or what council had approved back in the day, is that we were going to put in $20,000 a year and address the areas as the frost heaves come up, last year, we dug up and you know I think it was a local contractor who got the patching contract. So we basically gave them $20,000 of remedial work to address certain areas that had degraded. They were pulling out boulders, so the frost is moving that road, and so we're kind of patching it as we go, as opposed to redoing the entire road. So that's what this 20,000 was earmarked for. Now, in communication with the area foreman, he said that conditions had not changed a lot since 2020. Therefore, that's when the decision was made to defer to 2022. Now, keep in mind that our operating budget does have money for patching. Should conditions change, we still have the opportunity to fix these roads. And that's.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Sean.
I agree with the portion of the operational budget that we have the opportunity to fix it, but if it's earmarked as a capital project, my personal preference would be to deal with it as a capital project. Personally, the 20,000 for Muskesong, based on the study, based on past recommendation, I don't feel comfortable that it's deferred to next year. We should tackle that this year. I think overall the budget, what people look at is our roads and our sidewalks. And if people don't have good roads, that's the source of the main complaints that we get. So to me, I would support also adding on the 20,000 for Muskesong.
Okay, we have another request here, and I'm first going to go to Leo because he's had his hand up quite a while.
Okay, to add Pine Poultry Road at 239,000. How much is that? That's about 2% in taxpayers and increase in the taxes, if I'm correct. I mean, on Sean's budget, that's a lot of money. I don't know, because somewhere else, whatever. But just to add on, I know that's a problem road for Councilor Rowley's jurisdiction, but still at $239,000, $239,000 is a lot of money. That's just my feeling.
Right, well taken. Thank you, Councilor Leo. Madame Meres.
I think Conseil Alice before I.
Well, you know what? And I think that the both requests for Pine Poultry and whatever, I cannot name those three, are very legit. So we can jump and maybe look at what's projected to as far as other place of the budget that I don't think it's important to do this year. and I'm gonna say it before we get there, but the burner garage, for example. So you would get, we can exchange that because it's in the budget right now and do those two things that I think it's more important. That to put something that, because in our machinery had been out for forever, so I don't think a year more can do, and I would have not supported there, but I think it's important to finish those two roads so it doesn't cost us much and it will be finished. So that's my recommendation. And
Thank
it's
you.
3:37 and we need to, there's only 20 minutes left.
Thank you, Conseil Elise. I'm going to go to Monsieur Barbeau. Jay.
Well, a little bit along the lines of Councillor Senecal, I think that, highlight some issues. I wouldn't necessarily try and come up with a solution right now because there's a much wider picture at the end of the day as to what you want to do emphasis wise. So I think about 10 minutes ago, there was a valid point being made. Let's just highlight it, flag it for something that needs to be discussed, either replaced for another expenditure, increased or whatever. But I think we need to, it's been noted that Pine Poultry Road and perhaps patching of pavement needs to be discussed.
Thank you, sir. So it will be discussed further. Now, I think we've completed the deferral. We will now go to the capital equipment, and Sean, we might as well speak on the public works fleet for 2021. And that is on page 8 of 23.
First line is a 3/4 ton pickup for the Verner Yard. We're replacing a 2009 pickup. Sidewalk machine, which typically what happens is because the bulk of the sidewalks are in the Sturgeon area, the new machine comes to, and then the I guess the machines are bumped up to the Verner area where there's less sidewalks. But the Verner area is currently using a 2004 machine, which is long overdue for replacement. Plow truck, I think, we're replacing a 1997, which was pre-approved or as part of it's being built right now. We also have a new dump body replacing the truck is actually a 2014 PW 207. It is a Larachelle box with Larachelle seem to deteriorate faster than our Gencor boxes that we have been purchasing as of late. The water tank, the slide-in water tank is to, we currently in the Sturgeon area, the field area had a new tank last year, so they're well equipped. And on their way, the Verner area still has an old steel tank, but still very functional. It was built not too many years ago, so it's still functional. The Sturgeon area, we're using PW44, which is an old fire truck. It's a year 2000 fire truck. Last year, the annual cost us, I believe it was about $6,800, and the plates on it were also quite expensive. So this year, you're looking at the piece of equipment is beyond its life cycle. So I'm proposing to just replace it with a slide-in water tank, and that way we can use. There's more flexibility there than being handcuffed to an actual vehicle for watering.
Thank you, Sean. That's a good point there. So, and I just to ask you the new dump body. So you're gonna, I guess you're extending the life cycle of that of the truck itself, and well, that's a good idea. The truck is in good shape, and you're putting a dump body on it. Well, that's good. Thank you, Sean. Is there any questions, Dan and Chris and Madame Medes?
Go ahead.
Am I okay to go? I'm okay?
Yeah, go ahead, Chris. Yes.
Okay, stupid question, sorry, but here we go. So, what's a sidewalk machine? What's it do? Why do we need it? Is it one of those brushy things? Can't we just get a whole bunch of corn brooms and manpower? Thank you.
It's more than that.
No,
Chris. Go ahead, Sean. Respond to that.
It's the manufacturer is trackless, so it's the little buggy you see going down the sidewalks. sanding our sidewalks, plowing our sidewalks. Also, there's a blower attachment that we can put on the front to clear our sidewalks.
Okay, so thank you. And so what, it's actually more of a winter thing. It's a winter thing. Okay,
It's
thank
a
you.
winter thing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Dan, did you have a question? Then we'll go to Madame Medes after.
That was my question. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, sir. Madame Medes, question?
Not a question, but just a comment. I noticed that the large ticket item, the plow truck, I just hope that once we define what type of plow truck and if there's a make, that we also contemplate looking at our municipal association group purchasing to see if we can have a discounted price.
I think the truck, if I'm not mistaken, had been pre-approved and is in the making, Madame Medes. It had been pre-approved. So
What do you
that,
mean pre-approved?
well, it was brought up to council and we discussed the issue and we pre-approved this so that the truck could be ready for this year's fleet. Is that my right saying that, Sean?
I think Elisa can answer that one.
Okay, go ahead, Elisa.
Yeah, and we've done this a couple of years with the trucks because we do have the existing sort of longer term plan, but it usually, I think it was probably August that the issue was brought to council to get approval to go out for a quote at that point for 2021 purchase, just because there's such a long lead time in building the truck. So the truck was council approved the early dedicating of the dollars to it. The tender went out, the bid was awarded, and the truck is
Okay.
coming very shortly. Yeah.
So next year, I hope that we
In the future.
Okay, perfect.
Good point there, Madame Medes. Thank you. Was there anyone that had a question? I thought I seen a hand up. No? Okay. So I think that, well, no, I'm sorry. Let's,
Page 10.
Public Works Facilities, okay, Sean? And that would be on page 10 of 23.
Okay, so under Public Works Facilities, we have a couple of small projects that are in progress. We have the Werner Garage Design that's 95% complete. And we have the Sturgeon Falls Yard winter sand loading ramp that is, so I would say 50% complete. It is a project that we're doing in-house, so it's a little bit slower, but we are progressing, and it should, it will be complete before our winter season next season. 2021 projects, we have snow storage land purchase. So, you know, we in the Sturgeon area, we've increased our frequency of snow removal for the town core, for connecting link Highway 17, our bridges, which to have no snow storage, and around our schools. So we did, as a matter of fact, we did 17 rounds of snow removal this year. And when I say snow removal, I mean when we actually go in with the blower, we bring the snow onto the road, load it into trucks and haul it off site. Well, when we haul it off site, we used to use Langs Park. That is a little bit problematic. It is residential. We've received numerous complaints where trucks are backing in and out, and it's early mornings because snow removal, broad daylight is not a good thing. So it's got to be done in the early hours of the morning. So last year we started leasing a piece of property. It's kind of a swampy property beside our Public Works yard. So I would recommend purchasing that property because if we lose that lease, then I don't know where we put the snow. I guess we go back to Langs Park. But even Langs Park was getting pretty full because of the frequency of our snow removal. And the last one is the garage expansion. So this project has been deferred now for a few years. The roof is leaking. Some of the lights are getting leaked on. The rot at the base of the garage is not getting any better, and our equipment is some of our equipment is still cold starting and staying outside. So I would recommend we finally move forward with this expansion and repairs.
Thank you very much, Sean. And I just want to elaborate a bit, if I may, before we go on the snow storage land purchase. Yes, the lands that you spoke of on the highway there near this train tracks have been a problem, and people have been complaining to me directly about the snow and the water runoff and whatever else is put on that property. So it's something that we will have to look at. 2 years ago, with the amount of snow we had no choice, but we had to move out of there because it was packed with snow. So we do have to look for other areas. And the area in particular that you're using now is a great area, I think, and it could be ours forever. So that would certainly help us quite a bit. So I'm going to go to questions, and I'll go to Leo and Chris Fisher and Denis.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Chair. What about the Weyerhaeuser property? Could we store, for the time being, store snow on that property? Maybe Jay can answer. I'm not sure.
Well, we can. I mean, snow is not really clean, eh? And so, one of the other problems with Langs Park was what it was doing after the fact, and
yes, right.
Some of the mess and all of that. And I believe you would be creating some problems
later on
if you went to Weyerhaeuser a little bit. But the site that's behind the hotel, which is adjacent to the public works yard, I think is a pretty good investment with respect to alleviating our issues going forward.
Okay, I know what the property you mean now. Okay, I'm okay.
Yeah. I remember, if I may say, the time we did ask Weyerhaeuser to put snow there, and I can just remember seeing that, driving by there every day, the mess that was there, and when it melted, and what was left behind. So it's not a pretty picture. Thank you, Jay and Leo. So I'm sorry, I had Chris, and then Chris, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I did earlier, but
yeah,
actually
okay.
my
comment
was
and Denise.
My comment was similar to was about the warehouse property, but I guess the other thing is we want that spot. Is that because of convenience? Because just from my thinking, I thought the municipality also already owned gazillions of acres of land, and there's really nothing suitable that we can't repurpose anywhere, I guess would be my question.
We have explored a variety of things. In fact, back in the day, MOE cautioned us on this is like 25 years, even in the Sturgeon days, on putting it too close to the river, blah, 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 blah. The other issue with respect to the land is the cost of where it is, and that if you start putting it, yeah, we have land, but we're not going to be shipping trucks that are trying to do things in a hurry, removing snowbanks downtown in the middle of the night to be driving 10 kilometers and back. So this is, we have to have land that is convenient and in proximity to where we're removing snow. And so the only real land that works for us pretty much is and believe me, we've been busting our head trying to figure this out.
Thank you,
sir. Okay, so I'm going to go to Lise, Denis, and Dan.
I think Dan, Denis were before me.
No, well,
Yeah,
okay. No, there was with Denis. Denis was before you, Lise. Okay, go ahead.
My turn. Okay, it doesn't really matter. No, my same point as Chris. I thought we had enough lands without going to buy any more land. That's the last thing we need, I think. But if that's the only option, I still have a hard time supporting that. So that's my comment.
Thank you very much, Denis. Maybe we can switch some lands. That's another possibility. So I'll go to Conseillère Lise and then Dan.
Well,
and then Rolly.
Okay, so I'm going to start with in progress, Werner Garage design. I'm looking at 219 capital project, and it was not the only thing that was in the project was the Werner Garage expansion and Sturgeon Fall Yard winter sand loading ramp pump. So in progress, I don't know, I don't remember approving that, which I would have approved this year. because I will not approve the garage to be built this year. That's my, and I know it will have to be voted by everybody. I'm just saying that I agree that there should be a design done. I don't know where it was last year in Capitol because I have the paper, okay? Sturgeon Fall, yard, winter sand, I agree with that. We need that. Snow storage, yes, I agree. We need something in town because we're not gonna be ever load traveling 10, 15 kilometers to put it. So at the end, it's gonna cost more in a few years. And the Werner Garage expansion, it's a completely, again, no for me this year. So
Thank
that's
you.
my thought.
Point well taken. Okay, so I said Dan, and then Rolly and Chris. And Madame Meredith. Dan, Rolly, Chris, and Madame Meredith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, you made reference to the Lang's property where we're dumping it right now.
That's right.
And I noticed that the fence is getting really dilapidated. And I guess that's another reason we would move away from putting snow there, because I eventually we're going to have to straighten that freaking fence because it's not too appealing. And the thing is that that's why I would think that it would make sense to buy that piece of property or that swamp, and we could and then clean up that area because it's not too appealing. It's right off the highway, and you can see the fence is falling on some.
That was a fence we had in the recreation grounds for the Fiddle Fest. And they did, and then you have a good point there. And you know what, Dan, that land that you're talking about is good real estate. So we could probably sell that to pay the other part, and we could end up with more money. And that's just a thought. Okay.
Thank you. I just wanted to bring that to you.
Good point. Now I'll go to Rolly and then Madame Meredith.
I just like that last comment you made to sell a part of the land to acquire another one, because but that land park, if compared to the price we would pay for that swamp, would it not be cheaper just to get a dozer, and whenever you dump the snow, you ramp it up, so you could put a lot more in there than just dumping it and trying to push it with the loader, and that's it. With a dozer, you could go higher. So that's my comment. You could put a lot more there if you were to do it that way.
Good point. Thank you, Rolly. And Madame Meredith?
I think Sean has something to say. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sean, did you have something to add?
Yeah, just to maybe, answer Councilor Rowley's comment. The issue we have with Lang's Park is noise pollution for the residents around. So bringing in a dozer, I agree. If the higher you go, the less area you need. But the whole issue with Lang's Park is the papers that the melting snow leave behind, the winter sand that it leaves behind, the dust, and the noise when we do snow removal. So this new area, we don't have the issue with the noise. We have enough land that we don't incur the extra cost of a dozer to raise it. So it just it's more efficient because it's right at the yard. So whenever we gotta work at the area, the guys are there, the loader's there. There's no travel time. It just works. That's why we've leased it for a few years now to see how it would work. If there'd be any drainage issues, and that was the idea behind leasing it for a couple of years before diving in and actually purchasing. But it seems to work well right now.
Thank you, sir. Madame Meredith?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I've probably got the answer to what I was looking for. The fact that we were leasing the land adjacent to our public yards and behind Comfort Inn, it probably never impeded on the snowmobile to be able to access Comfort Inn. Okay.
We worked with them to allow the trail to go through.
Okay, perfect. And the other statements that were said, about Lang's Park, I think that that does require merit, for discussion specifically on an agenda in the near future. Because I concur with the comments that were said by Councillor Dan, like that fence is falling and it's unfortunate, and probably that property could be, does require some remedial work. With everything that's being presented now, My understanding is we're going to get a design for the Werner Garage. Once that design is ready, I, for one, would appreciate for it to come to council so we have exactly an idea of what the design is being proposed. And I would also support deferring the Werner Garage to be able to compensate right now to do Pine Poultry and Muskasong for this year's budget. And in the interim, once we have the design for the Werner Garage, there could also be the opportunity that there may be, who knows, some federal and provincial dollars for investment in capital facilities like we had in the past. And that could be something that could be worthwhile exploring. But my personal opinion and my recommendation is I want to see the investment done on immediate needs for the roads that have been identified today. And it would not impact the final number of the projects that are being proposed to us within the package.
Councillor Yvon, you're on mute.
You're on mute.
I'm sorry. My thing is going dead, so it's not charging now. I don't know why. I may lose you, so there may be someone that'll have to take over my job. So we'll go to Councillor Chris Fisher and Councillor Alice.
So, philosophical question, I guess, for the CAO. So I see this Werner Garage expansion, very nice. Let's have a nice garage. I like this. But are we sure that somewhere no one's going to come back and say, you know what, you guys really, this is old, that's old. Werner, Levine, you guys need a super site. Why don't you build a fire station, public works yard somewhere in the middle of that? Are we sure? Are we sure we're not going to build something and then somebody's going to turn around and say that's not really the right solution? Thank you.
The quick answer is no, I'm not sure. So, what we're doing is doing an evolution of projects that we're continuing. I think going forward, we've highlighted some of the pull-out kind of requires further discussion. The mayor had some good points of exchanging this for that, or do we keep going for that? Definitely with respect to that structure, it needs to be repaired, or we need to make a decision maybe a little bit wider or more strategically as to where public works yard should be. And if we have a facilities review, maybe that's going to be the case. So, so I'm not necessarily saying one way or the other, but right now, we have an issue to fix our garage. But my recommendation, given the fact that it's 4, is that all of these comments will be taken, we'll continue on, and then we'll pull a list of discussion items or decision points that were highlighted, Pine Poultry, patching, the garage, other things. And we'll have a more of a fruitful debate down the line going forward and coming up to a consensus.
Conseiller Denis. Mr. Chair, I just gave the floor to Conseiller Denis because I noticed that you're trying to
plug in,
get more energy on your tablet, I imagine.
Yeah, I don't know why I don't know how your tablet's left. I had mine fully charged. Okay, I'm just continue plugging my stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you, Denis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I brought it up, I think in the first year I was councillor, that suggesting that, and I think Jay had talked about it a little bit, because they had received a grant for looking at all the buildings. And my thought was maybe we should think about having a little garage of some sort in Levine, and then we can store at least a grader or something that needs to be stored. And I think it would be a lot more efficient, and I'm not sure that we have continued to look at it. I know we had received a grant to look at all of the operations, and I'm not sure if that's still in there, but I think we should have a serious look at it, because the grader has to travel quite a ways to come to the area of Levine, and I don't know if we go up to Manettville yet, but
3
Just
days.
a thought, and then we can maybe look at it anyways. Thank you.
Yeah, so with respect to some of the modernization funding we were talking about, we're going to have a discussion with you when this comes back about facilities review and that kind of thing, because it might indicate strategically that some of the buildings we have are not worth saving. And it might indicate to you that despite that, you might need a building at a different geographic location, given the evolution of your of the municipality, right? So we'll bring that back towards the end for that strategic discussion at the end.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you very much.
Just a quick
Okay.
follow-up. I forgot my question. Never mind.
Okay, we'll come back. Conseiller,
No. Excuse me, it's 4 o'clock, eh? So, we need at some point of time to keep on that conversation at another meeting, because it's pretty hard, 3 hours on number.
okay, so we'll just go to Councillor and we'll wrap. Rolly?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I agree. I would like to, I would like to fix the garage. I'd like to have all those roads fixed also. But if I have to choose this year on the road that people drive on to go to their homes or the garage, which is still standing, I would have to choose the road. The roads, it's very important that it needs to be done. Pine Poultry needs to be done. But again, I would like to have the garage bit fixed too, and the road, but if we can't afford it, at least let's fix the road. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rowley. So we are now 4:03. Madame Medes, I'm going to send this back to you. I think it's time that we at the hospital. So here, thank you, Madame Medes.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the active participation of all and participation in the information provided to us by staff. This concludes our third budget meeting. On our schedule, our calendar for the next meeting, that is Monday, March 15th at 1 o'clock. And at that point, either we're provided a update for Public Works. If not, then we follow with the schedule that was provided to us, and then we would be moving forward to community services on Monday, March 15th. Okay, so thank you, merci, and have a great evening.
Good.
Is there a mover and a seconder for the resolution? Conseiller Alice, Conseiller Leo.
It's moved by Councillor Lee Senecal and seconded by Councillor Mallette. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2021-15, being a bylaw of the West Nipissing Municipality, to confirm its proceedings of council at its budget meeting held on the 10th day of March 2021, shall come into force and take effect from the day it is passed.
Any objections? None? Carried. Adoptee.
It is moved by Councillor Lee Senecal and seconded by Councillor Leo Mallette. Be it resolved that the budget meeting of council held on March the 10th, 2021 be adjourned.
Any objections? None? Carried. Adoptee. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
And have a great day and great evening.